Oh, yeah?
Welcome to the Car Ramble Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy, a.k.a. Orca Ninja, a.k.a. Marakai Boy, a.k.a. Too Many AKAs to Name. And sitting next to me, we have...
I am Matt, a.k.a. Sideways City on Instagram. That's it.
And today in studio, we have... someone that we've wanted to have in here since we started day one. And I'm so glad that he's here. And it's a pleasure to have you here, Mr. Zach Dyson.
Well, thank you for having me.
Woo!
It's nice to be here.
You want to go ahead and introduce yourself a little more, maybe Instagram, if you have a Twitter or anything like that?
Okay, so I am Zach Dyson. I have been drifting for approximately 13 years now, with a few hiatuses in there. So that's why I'm here. From my time in the Oklahoma drift scene and all of the knowledge and experiences I've had. And then as far as all of my social media stuff, don't bother.
Zach doesn't really do much social media or anything like that.
I really don't care. But the reason I'm maybe relevant here is because of my years of knowledge and my current status as a team member in Drift Riot.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
Zach's just a really cool dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Hands down, one of the coolest dudes I know.
Thank
Facts.
you. I'll take it.
So why don't we first start? Obviously, we know a little bit about you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, if I'm not mistaken, you're not from Oklahoma originally,
No.
right?
No, born in a really, really small town in the panhandle of Texas. Wasn't there for long. My mom came to Oklahoma City, where we kind of bounced around a few places, but basically grew up in a really small town in a suburb of Oklahoma City. Graduated with like 80 people in my high school class.
It's a really small high school.
Super small town, yeah. And
Like a 2A class?
3A.
3A.
It was
Oh,
3A then.
Oh, still 3A, okay.
And so did that, went to Votech after high school, just had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Damn sure didn't want to go to college because all I wanted to do was like have a good time, and school was not that.
You would have a really good time at an expensive cost, that's for sure.
Yeah. I would have had a lot of fun in college, but making it to class wasn't going to be what I was doing. So
Fair. So you during that time growing up, you spent time with motorcycles and such, and did you happen to play any sports as well?
So I did a few school sports, like real briefly, but kind of fun, but it never really was my thing. And I always found my groove in initially BMX, and my uncles and other family members had experience in like motocross and dirt bikes. And that just always really appealed to me. And so when I got the opportunity to start, I just pushed my parents forever and finally got a dirt bike and just never looked back. Like before that, I was a great student and I was taking like piano lessons and stuff. And then it's like, yeah.
Really?
And then I got a dirt bike. Yeah. And then an electric guitar. And it's like, it was a whole new life for me.
I was gonna say I knew you were into like music and stuff like that. I didn't know you knew how to play piano though. Well,
yeah,
took piano lessons.
Yeah,
I don't know if you still
I did it for a few years. I probably wasn't very great.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, that's kind of how I started. Like going off on a little like music tangent here. Like I started with like I think I did piano lessons when I was 13 or 14 for like maybe a year, and then I was like, no, I want a bass guitar. So yeah.
Well, going from music to BMX I think is the first time I've ever heard you mention it. I know I've heard the motorcycle talk, both like cafe style racers to like motocross and such. How long were you doing BMX for?
So I would have been a skater kid, but our place was so like out in the country. It just, you weren't going to find that much pavement. And so BMX was the next thing. You know, we had a yard. I'd go out there and just slave away with a shovel all day building jumps and just go crash my ass off. I mean, I had nothing better to do. You know, I'm just going to be honest with you. That was my form of entertainment. And I didn't have like neighbors close. Okay. So I had to do everything my damn self.
So that means that you probably were able to make some pretty creative stuff then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's not really much different from like kind of how I grew up. Like growing up like out in like Choctaw and stuff. Like there's not any street
Yeah.
stuff. So, but also my dad wouldn't let us build like jumps or anything like that. So we just found like some woods and just kind of made trails. So
Yeah,
I guess
I did all that stuff too.
yeah, I guess I was more of like the trail bike type stuff rather than just like BMX. We had like some small little humps, you know, but it was more like trail type stuff.
Yeah, I would have been on the
Dodging
dirt
limbs
bike
and shit.
all the time, but it was like I just constantly ran it out of fuel or maintenance, and so it was like I would have to go back and forth, get on the BMX bike, and then once I got to like middle school, high school, had other buddies that got into BMX, and so we became really good friends, and I didn't have any other friends local that like rode motocross, so it really transitioned into like BMX, and then it was like time to turn 16. I needed a vehicle, so I sold the dirt bike that I had to help fund like getting a truck. So, and I put motocross behind me at that point, did BMX because it was cheap and my other buddies could do it with me. And so we did that for a while. I'm trying to think.
What kind of truck was it? Like,
so being in like essentially like a small farm town, like everyone had trucks. So that's what you got, you know?
I want to try and guess it. Was it a Ford Ranger?
I got lucky. I had a nice truck. My first one, I had a 93 Chevy Cheyenne. So it was like the base model full size truck.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. I had that truck for 1 or 2 months, and a guy ran a stop sign in front of me. I T-boned him, totaled both vehicles. It was his fault. And so that was like my first experience.
Wow. So fast forward, we're in high school. You've got the Cheyenne. You've done some BMX and you've done some motocrossing. You're still BMXing, I'm assuming. How did you get to Oklahoma then?
So this was like, you mean Oklahoma City? Like how did... Yeah. Okay, so...
Because he was in a small town.
Yeah, and this was all basically around like the Newcastle, Tuttle area. So I was just hanging with friends, essentially doing BMX, you know, as much as we could, and probably around that time starting to get involved in partying with buddies. It's like somehow we always had a little alcohol on the weekends. No idea where it came from now. But so that kind of opened up in my life, and I found out how much fun all that was. So we would occasionally do that when we could. And then I'm basically graduating high school, have no idea what I want to do. And I know my parents are just pushing like, what are you going to do? And like, we didn't have a lot of money. I wasn't going to go rack up a bunch of student loan debt because I knew I wasn't going to be a good student. I was going to piss it away. So I went to Votech because it was free and it would get my parents off my ass. It would make it look like I was doing something. But the reason I went there was because I was like, you know, I could go paint my truck there. I can't afford to get it done, but I would like it to look better. So I just went and did that. And I started, it was like a 2-year part-time program, and I got halfway through, and I got tired of just going to school part-time, working part-time, and being broke all the time. Because I just came from, like, we just didn't ever have a lot of money. Money was always tight. My uncle gave me a really good job offer. He was a plumber, and he had a big new construction outfit in South Texas, and I'm talking southernmost tip of Texas, about 5 miles north of the border. I had never been out of Oklahoma, really.
Okay.
And so I was just like, so it's going to be close to South Padre Island? I was like, yeah, I want some new experiences. Count me in. So I went down there, and man, he just worked me like a mule. I worked like 60 hours a week.
Oh my.
It was super humid and 105 degrees every day.
So he thought he was going to get some like tequila and some
I thought it was going to be a good time.
Hey, but was Padre good though? Like was the
I had some fun times. I definitely got my truck stuck out on the beach a couple of nights from partying out there and shit. It was fun. It ended up being an awesome life experience, and I learned a lot and just made a whole new group of friends out there. And you just never really know who you are, I think, till you get completely out of your environment where it's all new and you have to adapt. And like, I mean, we're talking like half the street signs down there are just in Spanish. Most people are just speaking Spanish. I mean, I was in the United States. I was still in Texas, but it may as well have just been Mexico.
But Padre is beautiful, and like all the bars and like the way that they have the that big main street set up, and like you can just ride a bike down it or walk down it to get to all the bars
So
and stuff.
I didn't get to do all that cool stuff because I was still underage. But what we did, me and all my buddies, we just went to Mexico to all the bars and shit. So it didn't matter.
True, yeah.
So it ended up being an awesome experience, a whole bunch of really rad times that I really don't remember any of at this point. But we did that before the border was crazy. Like, you can't go do that shit now.
Yeah.
It's been bad for a really long time. But a couple years after I moved back up was when everything got bad. So it was pretty laid back, and it was very acceptable to go do the stuff that we were doing, go to clubs and bars. Yeah. You know, I mean, if you were like 16, I didn't give a shit.
So then going to Votech, did that bring you to Oklahoma City or?
So I did the job with my uncle. I think I was down there for close to a year and a half, and I just got tired of working my ass. Like, it was so hard to carve out any time to go have fun. Just got sick of it. We finished the job. I moved back. I was like, I'm going to come back. I'll finish Votech. And I really had no other plans than to just finish that out and see what opportunities came my way. So I did that, finished that year out in school, got a job at a local body shop that ended up being really close to where I was living with my mom in Purcell at that time. And I had never lived in Purcell before, so I was with them for a year, 2 years maybe. So started working in the body shop industry, which has become like I don't know, that was like 16 years ago, you know, which I just... put an end to that. So on to new things now. But that kind of led me.
Congratulations,
by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. But that just led me on to a default career that I was never looking for. I just enjoyed doing it, and I took a lot of pride in what I did, and it, you know, opened some cool opportunities for me.
Absolutely.
That's not too dissimilar from like me and like doing the aircraft mechanic thing, honestly, because like I know you were doing body shop stuff for way longer than I've been doing aircraft, but like, you know, I was like, it was kind of the same thing. Like, I always like planes, I've always been around them, but I never thought about working on them. And then I found this like school and everything. It's like, oh shit, okay.
So
kind of the same, maybe not.
Yeah, no, I mean all those
similar,
all the trades where you're working with your hands. I mean, they're all pretty related, and it's like now all that. Like, I just went down there to work with my uncle. I mean, he just said, "You're going to make X amount." And I was like, hey, that's good money. Let's go do it. I didn't know I was going to be working my butt off with no time to do anything else to make that money, but I did. And I learned a bunch of trades, which are super beneficial now.
Oh, yeah.
It has saved me so much money, and so that has really paid off. And like me getting into cars and doing all the stuff I've done has really paid off as well.
So then what got you into cars? Like, what got you to the drift scene? Like, how did you even like were 240s your first interest?
Okay, so this is a funny story, and I was hoping that this would come up.
You used to be into like mini trucks and stuff, right? Yeah,
because I grew up in a small town where everyone had trucks.
Yeah,
so I just always loved like the 88 to 98 Chevy trucks, because that's what was super common.
Like S10s.
No, full-size trucks.
OBS type stuff.
And so I have had a handful of those body style trucks, and the one that I went to Votech with and painted, it was this really rare blue color that is just gorgeous, and I've always loved blues. And so that truck, and I actually did a deal with my dad. He helped me, and we bought like a lowering kit for the truck. I bought some cool Eagle 17-inch wheels. So like back in the like when I was in high school, like this thing was badass. It was really, really nice.
He had the old school.
Yeah, I mean, back when 17-inch wheels were like 20s weren't out yet.
Yeah.
Like you had 17s, you were the shit, and that's what I had on my truck. So it was like really, really cool. So I was always into, and like how I got into the paint and auto body like field, I was always into making stuff look really cool, but I was only familiar with trucks because that was really my whole experience. So I did that for a while, and it's funny, my introduction into imports, I just always thought they were junk. I hated all import cars. There was nothing I liked. I didn't like sports cars.
Why?
I just liked trucks. I was just very close-minded, and it was all I knew.
That's just what his element
But
was, you know.
also,
at the time.
like,
Can't
I
take
grew
me
up-
on my element.
Yeah. I grew up being a dirt bike guy, and you had to have a truck to get your bike
True.
everywhere.
True.
Yeah,
And me and all my buddies, like the road BMX, you had to have the truck to pile all the bikes in. So it was a necessity. I didn't look at anything else.
Well, and back then too, like foreign trucks weren't. I mean, you had like, what year was that? Like early 2000s type stuff.
Yeah, I
Or-
graduated in 03, so anywhere
Okay,
a little
so,
bit before
yeah,
and after that, you
yeah.
know.
Like I think Nissan had just come out with the Titan. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
like Japanese manufacturers making trucks. Like,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah,
this?
you
Like,
nobody
it was-
trusted it yet, you know.
Because what the
weird.
Tundra would have followed like about 3 to 5 years later.
The Tundra started in what?
08?
2000?
Something
No,
like that?
no.
I think they were earlier than
The
that.
Tundra
but-
started in like 2002, because before the Tundra, all you had was just the Tacoma.
Hey, Jamie, will you look that up? For those-
Jamie, pull that up for me.
For those of you listening,
Yeah.
our Jamie's just an iMac here. So we'll
Yeah.
do a quick Google
Hey,
here.
hey, Jeremy, pull it up real quick.
Okay. When did the Toyota Tundra first?
When was the first one unthawed?
from the Tundra.
1999.
Okay.
Ooh, in May.
But yeah, but still, so that was still pretty new.
Oh yeah, that was way
Yeah.
too, because that was an expensive $30,000 vehicle. You know,
Right,
no one
yeah,
had
yeah.
those.
Shit, now you can't find a fucking Tundra for like a new one. Is
Yeah.
what, like
No,
60 or
I'm sure
70?
60 or 70 out.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Easily.
So I just had trucks forever, and I got tired of the shitty fuel mileage with the truck, and I got to where I was doing a lot of driving. I'm sure I had changed a few jobs, and at this point, I had found my way to Oklahoma City. I was living on like the north side of OKC at this point, but I got a job at this hot rod shop in Bridge Creek. And so
Oh.
we're talking like
An
40,
hour?
45-minute drive.
yeah.
And I just couldn't afford it in the truck. And I had a buddy, because at one point in time, I had worked at Freightliner painting semis. And I had met a group of friends there. And this buddy was selling a 95 four-door Civic that was spray painted black. And said he'd sell it to me for $1,000.
It's always the Civic.
And it was a 5-speed car. And I just I don't think I had ever had a manual. Never owned a manual. I knew how to drive them, but I just never owned one.
Yeah, probably from like the motocross.
Yeah, from
and stuff.
motorcycles
You
and
knew
stuff.
how to
Yeah.
work it. Yeah.
So I was just doing this insane commute, and I got that car, and that car got like 35 miles a gallon. It was just bulletproof, you know. I think it leaked as much oil as it consumed. That was as much of an expense as the fuel in the car.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it was just super reliable. And I was like, I just tried to blow that car up because it was kind of a piece of shit, and I hated it.
So it's funny that you mentioned like you just tried to blow the car
Yeah.
up. I keep seeing all these reels and stuff on Facebook about like how you just can't kill a D series.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
No, this car had a
Literally
D15 in
Yeah.
it, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just, you can't. I ran the car out of oil.
Mhm.
Like, it would leak,
Yep.
and it would burn up so much oil. And I got so stingy that I just like, well, I can stretch it before I put another cord in, you know?
Right.
And it would basically get to where it wouldn't idle anymore.
But it would still try and
And there would be
start
no
up.
oil on the dipstick, and you could put a cord in it, and then it just ran like a top.
Yeah.
And we're talking, this car probably had 350,000 miles on it before I got it.
The fucking oil pickup's probably just like literally sitting on the bottom
It was
of the
probably
pan.
just sitting in whatever sludge
Yeah,
was down in the pan because it had never been opened up, you know?
See, and
Holy
that's
moly.
the insane thing about Hondas, man. Like, honestly, I want to get another Civic, like
Yeah.
an older Civic like that for a
Yeah, you
daily,
can't beat
just
them.
'cause-
You just
yeah.
can't. But that was my first introduction to anything import. And as much of a piece of shit as that car was, and then like as hard as I was on it, and it just never skipped a beat. And I was like, oh, these are extremely well made. I could have never abused any of the other trucks that I had like that, you know? And so it kind of won me over. And so I was like, okay, this is pretty legit. And it really opened my eyes, but my experience into drifting for the first time, oh man, this is good. Because this is like, most people aren't even going to like know these names at this point.
Uh-oh.
So my first introduction was Andy Dennington
Yeah.
Shout out to One Up Fabrication.
Shout out
Yeah.
One Up Fabrication.
because we went to, I think he was a first-year student when I was a second-year student in Votech. So now I'm realizing my timelines are kind of overlapping, but I definitely didn't plan this out. So I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here.
Yep.
So you met Andy before you went to Mexico?
After.
After.
It was when I came
back.
back.
when you came back and finished out
Yeah.
Votech. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was when I came back, and he had some like turbo Celica. Well, it wasn't a turbo. It was a Celica that he turboed.
Wait, hold on.
You know, for clarification.
What year?
It was
Because
one of the ugly ones. I don't know.
I don't think any of us know about this.
Probably like a 2003, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Was it like the ugly, like the
Was it
tsunami
like-
Oh, yeah. It was
style?
super ugly.
What?
It looked like one of those early Tiburons. You know?
Oh,
I think.
shit.
As far as I
Okay.
can, I mean, I probably saw this car 2 or 3 times.
Yo,
Damn,
maybe,
Andy,
yo,
we didn't know you were cool like
Yeah,
that, bro.
that was, I think,
Andy?
his first.
if you're
Yeah.
listening, we need you here to give us clarification on that.
I'm gonna send this to him. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
send it to him and tell him that like, hey, you get a
Like-
shout out like early on in
Hey,
the episode.
fast forward to this part at least and listen, because
Right,
we need you to
yeah.
come. All right, but
All I
continue on.
remember is it was white. He bought a bunch of cheap parts to boost it. And he bought some horrendous body kit that we tried to put on it at Votech, and we couldn't even get it on. Like, it just didn't fit. It was just, you know, we were all broke, and these were the cheapest of the cheap parts. And I'm pretty sure he got it together and then went and blew it up in like no time from probably a lack of a tune or a chip tune or something.
Well, yeah, that was probably like before, you know, tuning was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
Yeah,
I mean, you had like probably like Hall Tech was probably like one of the first ones, but that shit was like $3,000 back in the day.
Yeah,
you know?
no one
I mean,
had good stuff.
It's
It either
still
had a
like
chip
3
tune or it had no tune.
Yeah, it's still $3,000 or more for Hall Tech, but like shit.
I mean that, or if you were in the Nissan game around that time, Gretty and HKS and stuff were pretty.
It might have had
prevalent
like
here.
That
one of
shit
those
was like-
SAFCs or something.
Oh,
I bet
yeah,
it
super
did.
airflow
Yeah,
controller.
it was like the
Yeah.
SFAC stuff and things like that. But you know,
the thing that
something
tricks the
there.
ECU.
Yep.
Makes the ECU.
Yeah, because that's all anybody had back then. Really.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Did it have a turbo timer on it?
no idea. I just know that he was like struggling to get it together, and then not too long after I heard him get it together, it was blown up.
Yeah.
I mean, it may have just ate the head gasket, but something bad happened.
so he was your first into kind of like
Modifying imports.
Yeah.
modified imports.
Yeah, somebody that was doing that, because I'm like, oh yeah, turboing something's cool. It was way out of I didn't know anything about it, you know, at that point. And he wasn't even into drift cars yet. And
Naturally.
so I'm going to imagine that somewhere after that Celica was when he bought that black hatch that he had for a long time.
What year was this?
God, I
Probably
don't
like 2005, 2006,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah,
It
05,
would have
06
to
probably.
be 506.
Yep.
Because around
So
that
that would-
time I joined Nismo KC boards.
Yeah.
For the first time. So
That was probably around the time too when like, I mean, obviously YouTube wasn't even really a thing. Everyone
Yeah.
was still
Oh,
like
yeah.
watching real player videos of like Kumakubo
StreetFire.net.
and all them. Yeah.
So at some point after that Celica, he ends up with that S13.
The black car.
Yeah, the black
Yeah.
car. And at some point, he's like working on that thing, and he was talking to me. He's like, yeah, dude, you got to come out to these drift events. They're so cool. He just talked it up and made it seem like the coolest thing ever. And I was like, well, hell yeah, I have to. It sounds amazing. You know, so
This was a Madness Garage, right?
yes, the
Okay,
Madness Garage was
okay.
hosting the events. I come out there and I drive my, like, at this point, I've got like a 99 GMC full size that I put on like air suspension, and it's
Oh,
all
hell
shaved
yeah.
and painted, like super, super nice truck. And that's what I was into. And I go to this drift event because he's just talking it up on how amazing it is. So we get to Stroud, and there's like
There's a parking lot with like some cones in it.
probably like 8 cars
Yeah.
at the track.
Yep.
You
Hold
know?
on, I could probably name them. So there's Tony,
That had the
LSR
RX-7.
the RX-7 Tony,
Yeah.
Mark, maybe.
Mark
I don't
Harmon,
know.
maybe Shane was probably driving one of his cars.
It was a handful of that crowd for sure.
Tim, rest in peace.
Yeah, probably
Maybe.
Tim.
And then Matt Othon.
Yeah.
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 So yeah.
That was pretty much it. And then he's there, and he's like, yeah, dude, come get a ride with me. And I jump in with him, and like, I'm not trying to roast him here, but I'm pretty sure all we did was spin out the whole time.
Hey man, we all start somewhere.
And yeah, of course, right. And like, and I thought his car was going to be really cool, but it had like
like stock.
half cheap body kit parts on it with
probably
like sunken in stock wheels. We're
Stock
still
KA
on
probably.
stock angle. I'm pretty sure we was still on stock blown out struts at this. I think the car just had a welded disc.
So it was like my old blue car.
Yeah. It may have had an SR at this point.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. I think it had like the S14 front end or the kooky front end was like one of the first things he did to that car.
Oh,
I
that's
remember
right.
that.
Yeah, I do remember that car being.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing. So that was like way before I got
this
into
was
like
early.
KC. Yeah. But I remember seeing pictures of the car with the kooky front end on it. Yeah.
And so we go out there and I'm just disappointed. I'm like, this looks really cool, but he made it sound like he was really good, and he was just learning. We've all been there. And so it was just a funny experience because I was like, well, this was kind of a shit show, But I was intrigued. And that was enough for me to be like, okay, well, if you find a cheap car, let me know. And he hooks me up with a guy. I go out, I don't even know where it was, out in the middle of nowhere. And this dude's got a trailer park off a dirt road, or a trailer house off of a dirt road. And there is a black S13 coupe that's sitting on cinder blocks because it has no wheels, and the dude wants $500 for it, and it has no title. And he's like, hopefully it starts. It's been sitting here for years.
Man, the days of that are over.
I know.
That's crazy.
$500, possibly running 240 on cinder
with
blocks.
an engine.
Bring wheels.
And so we
bring your own wheels.
We brought a couple gallons of fuel. I think we found some Honda wheels, so they weren't even really the right pattern, but we were able to put them on. Enough to get the car started. I think I had to bring a battery too and drive the car around, and it ran and everything seemed okay. So I handed the dude $500 cash, and I'm into my first car.
That is Lord Jesus Christ.
And so, this one will get you even more. And that one was like one of the super high end. It was like I think it was a 91, and it had the heads up display and all that shit. It was, I think, a sunroof car. It was really, really nice.
$500.
Yeah, $500 car.
Sorry, I'm just still stuck on the fact that oh God.
I mean, my first 240 was an SC89
Yeah.
For $150 with a blown single cam, but it had the blue interior with the heads up display. You say, ugh, that stuff it's beautiful when it's put together.
I don't like the blue interior, man.
The blue interior looks good.
That's crazy because and it's like if we're talking about like first 240 prices, I think that white coupe that I got from Julio. I think I gave him like $2,200 for it. Yeah, running, driving. It was dual cam swapped. So
hey, shout out to Julio. I actually saw him the other day at a initial D tournament over at Mark's house. So
he's got that GSR now, right?
The GST, the Eclipse, yeah.
Is it a GST or a GSX?
It's an all-wheel drive GSX.
It's a GSX.
All-wheel drive.
Dude, okay, those cars are cool as shit.
Yeah.
There's a little tangent here. Like I had an old roommate that had one. Fast as shit and literally just like hugged the fucking road.
Yeah.
Like they do not break traction like at all. It's insane.
Well, I would like to say I think this might be an appropriate time for us to go ahead and take a quick little break. So we will insert a commercial here coming up, and we'll be right back. RB Customs, based out of Lawton, Oklahoma. There for all your paint, body, and custom needs. Be sure to check them out on Facebook, and of course you can follow RBC_Drift on Instagram. That's going to be ran by Brandon Hastert from Drift Militia that we're currently speaking to on the podcast. And if you would be more interested in getting your car painted or fixed there, be sure to dial 580-574-7568. Also a reminder to keep it A1 with J1. That's going to be John Jones from Drift Militia. He has a business aiming to be a middle ground to help safely introduce newcomers into the motorsports world, whether that's through help with a project, maybe you need some extra tools, or just need someone to talk to help get you a little bit more closer to your goals. Be sure to check him out as well on Facebook.com as J1 Motorsports LLC and on Instagram as well. Let's get back to the podcast, guys. And we're back. So when we left off, we were talking a little bit more about your time spent with Andy at the first drift event back when it was Madness Garage. Shout out to those guys for putting on those events, by the way, because that is very crucial as to how
where it all started.
Literally the start of Oklahoma drifting.
But yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit more. You ended up finding this coupe. It was on no wheels.
Yep, sitting on cinder blocks, no title, motor. No telling what the backstory was on that one. It was just mine, you know. So I get that car, and I can't even remember where I'm living at this point. But I think I buy the car and I don't have anywhere to put it. Like, we've all been in that situation, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so, shout out to my buddy Trey. We took that car out to his house, and it probably sat in his backyard for, months. And I'm trying to get my ducks in a row to get things going. I bought another car because I needed a title. I wanted a street car. And so I end up meeting Tim at Night Trips.
Tim.
Well, just randomly meeting him. You know, we didn't plan to go.
Oh, no, that
Tim,
makes sense.
Tim Ogila?
Yeah, that's probably...
Whatever his last name. I don't know what his last name was.
Rest in peace.
The Tim that is no longer with us.
Yeah,
Tim
Tim
Peace.
Ogila. Yeah.
So...
That was back in No Grip times.
Yeah.
That's how I know that.
Yeah. One random night, I'm there. He's there. We talk because we had briefly kind of known each other from the drift scene or something. And had a handshake deal there to buy his S13 coupe for like another, like, it had a single cam. He had just blown the motor up in it. And I stole that car. It was like so cheap and it was really nice. I think I paid like another $600, maybe $700 for that car. And it was really nice. And it had a OEM kooky front end on it.
Oh, shit.
So S13 coupe with a S14 kooky front.
Yeah, that's probably the best front end swap for a.
It looked really good.
Aside from like putting a Sylvia front on a USDM.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have had a Sylvia front on that car, but
but also like kooky front coupes.
Yeah,
like that's probably the only.
It works.
Yeah.
As they say, it fucks.
That shit fucks.
So I end up just handshake deal there. I meet up with him like a week later. I want to say my dad was in town and we borrowed a trailer, or maybe he knew somebody that had a trailer and we like winched this broken down car onto the trailer. And I don't know where I took that one either. Maybe back out to Trey's house for a little bit. I'm not really sure where my living conditions, and like at this point I don't have a garage to work out of because I'm young and I'm broke. And I think at this point I finally have a job professionally as a painter in like a body shop that runs a lot of work. So I'm getting to where I'm making pretty good money, but I'm very busy throughout the week doing all that. And, but I have a big knack for working on cars at this point. I've just become very mechanically inclined because I've always worked on my own stuff. Just always kind of grew up not having the money to pay someone else to do it. So I just figured it out. And at this point I've acquired a lot of tools. I'm sure right in here somewhere I end up getting a rent house in OKC that has a 2-car garage.
Nice.
And a lot of actually,
was that that was the 1-car garage over off of like.
This would have been my dates are wrong here. So I take both of these cars to Andy's house and we pull the motor out of the no title car and we put that motor in the good chassis that I just bought from Tim. And I paid someone to weld the diff, or bought a welded diff. I paid Taryn Phillips' brother, to weld the diff. Yeah. This is going way back.
Do you still have that diff?
No, because I sold that car a long time ago.
I still have my Taryn diff.
Yeah.
It's in the S14 right now.
Yeah, you won't break it.
I know.
You know,
I know.
it's
I
good.
won't. That's why I'm not worried. I'm worried about breaking axles before I break the fucking diff.
So this is another one where Andy and I really start to form a pretty good relationship, and we're helping each other out. And he's teaching me everything because I have no background in drifting at all. I know nothing about it except for what he tells me at this point. And I'm like, at this point, I bought these cars and I'm hooked. I'm in deep. You know, it is all happening and there is no going back. So he helps me. I think my dad helped me and we swapped drivetrains of those cars. And then maybe I take him to the house that I lived at on 46th. Which was my first like rent house, kind of doing my own thing in Oklahoma City. And I had really shitty steep driveway, but I had a 2-car garage up there, and
Was that one that you lived in that was like right next to the old Drunken Fry?
yes,
Okay,
that
yeah.
one right next to the bar. Yeah, that yellow brick house.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of.
I remember driving past that house a couple times.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, that's Zach's old house.
So that house, when I wasn't in the bar, I was working on my cars. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Rest in peace, the old Drunken Fry, dude.
Yeah,
that,
dude,
that place
it's,
was the spot.
They've just demoed that place now, man. There's
Did
nothing.
they really?
Yeah,
I haven't been by there.
Hilo and everything. It's all gone.
It's all gone.
Yep.
all
Holy
gone.
shit,
Yeah,
man.
the photo that's actually in my hallway whenever we take another break and stuff, if you look to the left, it's a picture of my car sitting in there. I was like, only my car and Rustin's G35 was the only 2 cars in OKC. Everyone's always looking for spots and stuff to take photos at, and I was like, this is not going to be available again.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
And it's before I did my body kit, so it looks all like one piece. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
So you have this 2-bedroom though. How did you end up with the hatch?
Okay. Yeah, we're getting there.
Because that's what you have now.
So out of the 2 cars, I make 1 car. I sold the no title car to a guy who started drifting. He was another friend of Andy's, and he put a 2J in it. And I remember one time he brought it to a couple of Stroud Drift events.
Who was this?
I don't remember his name.
Was it that Fasking guy or
No,
no?
that was like the tuner,
Okay, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This other guy, Andy, I believe worked with him or something. It was a friend of his. I didn't really know him otherwise. He bought that car and he did a few things with it, but I think he ended up destroying the 2J because he was not mechanically inclined and ran it out of oil.
Oof.
And I think I never saw that car again. I never knew of anything about it. But so I start drifting. I get my bearings in this. So my first real car that I'm actually driving, which is this S13 coupe. It just has a welded diff. And it looks kind of cool because of the S14 front. And it had like S14 side skirts and stuff. But that was it. Like it was a welded diff car, and that maybe we put the inner tie rod spacers,
the little washers.
Yeah. So that was my start to drifting, and it was tough. It was really hard. I didn't have any idea what I was doing. It really sucked for quite a while until I kind of started to grasp it. But I'm glad that I learned in that car and kind of learned some of those struggles. It really forced you. It was hard to learn, but when you did figure it out, it was very rewarding, so just a few Stroud events. This is back in the Madness Garage days. And so I hit a few events with them in this car, and then I'm at the point where I'm a little more stable. I'm making some more money, and there was another guy that Andy had helped out. Can't remember his name. He had built this hatch that I ended up buying, and SR swapped it. It was a really nice car. All the ISR suspension stuff, which was all ISIS in the beginning, he basically bought everything they made and put it on the car.
That was like back when it was all like brand new too.
First, this is like within the first year or two of them.
When it was still yellow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it had that nice like the 240SX sticker on the side.
Yeah, which was always super cool.
You should have kept that.
It was just gone. Son had ate all that stuff up at this point. And so this dude had built this car, realized it wasn't for him, and he was looking to sell it. And so I worked a deal out with him where it was like a partial trade where I did a paint job for him and then cash for the car.
So monetarily, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, it's all good.
There, monetarily, like, because you said like you kind of traded some paint work for it and everything, and then some cash. Back then, how like if you just bought it straight cash, how much?
So his outright
it?
number that he wanted, and this is like 13 years ago.
Yeah, and this is this is an SR hatch that was pretty clean.
Yeah. It was nice. It was a very nice
no,
car.
I
remember. It was a
remember-
totally unmolested car before he did everything drift mod to it, and he basically didn't even use it.
Yeah.
And so his number that he wanted to hit was $10,000, which was expensive back then.
Yeah.
But like really, when you factor the parts cost and how nice like it was actually still a pretty good deal back then. But this was expensive.
And
back
it was
then.
SR swapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this was back when SRs were $1,800. Yeah. So, but he already had all the stuff, you know, and it had like a fancy blow off valve and all.
How much do you think that car would go for now?
I have no idea.
Probably like easily go for that 10.
Oh yeah,
easily.
Oh more than that.
You could probably ask 15, 16 for that.
Yeah,
nowadays I would say that's crazy. That's crazy.
So I go from basically having a car with a welded diff to now all of a sudden I've got this car, and so my expectations are huge. I'm just super pumped. I get this car and I'm just driving around like on the streets, you know, because I love it. And this is my first turbo car. So God, hearing that HKS blow off valve every time, you know, it's like anytime I could go drive that car, I did. I just loved it.
You know, around this time, my mom was working at the Walmart neighborhood around where you were living at.
Yeah.
And so she would always be like, there's some guy that just around the corner, he has the same kind of car as you do.
Yep.
It's making a lot of loud noises.
Yep.
I do have a quick question to ask you.
Yeah.
At this time, obviously, I'm sure you were dating Jessica and stuff. What was her take on it? Because we never got a chance to really ask like Ben and stuff, like, you know, what their girls' takes were on them, like starting drifting.
If you want the genuine answer,
I know we would have to ask her.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because
I can speculate, you know, but I mean, initially, like when we first started dating, I think that she thought it was kind of cool. Just because it's a new thing and it's like, it's something that I'm passionate about and initially, like you don't have future plans and goals essentially. Like, I mean, she's a woman, so she probably had a lot more than me. I just wanted to have a good time, you know? So she would go with me to events and stuff. So like she was on board, as much as she let on anyways, you know?
And then the parts started showing up.
Well, just then all the trouble and all the hours trying to fix stuff, and it wears you thin, you know? Yeah. So right after I bought this car, Madness Garage quit putting on events, and we had no event promoter, and I was furious. I just spent all this time and money to get this car, and now I had the closest place to go was going to be like the Lone Star Drift stuff or Mineral Wells. That was the closest place to go now, and I was just pissed off because I would have never got this car without events being as accessible as they were.
Man, that's kind of how I felt whenever, you know, the breakup between OMC and Full Lock Drift, but. Now that's not really.
No, that'll all work out. Yeah. Like in Oklahoma, we'll touch on that, but we are so spoiled. We have more venues than probably anyone else in the nation.
Dude, yeah, for real.
So, I know this is getting very long-winded, but I'll try to get on track and kind of wrap this up.
You're good. You're good. We're here to listen to this.
Yeah, my story is a long one. God, it's long. Just me talking about it, it's wearing me out. So I can't imagine anybody listening.
That's the cool thing about like our podcasts and stuff. Like we don't really like, at first we kind of had a time limit, and then like we had Ben and Gunner on, and that one, I think that's our longest, or was.
Yeah, it's the longest one to date right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm not trying to break it, but I have too damn much to say, so I'm sorry.
That's fine. I mean, if you want to skip ahead, you can skip ahead. It's fine.
Well, I feel like it needs to go a little bit chronological.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to keep it brief, like the highlights or whatever. So I get that car and I drove it around on the street for like 2 weeks and I'm just loving it. And then I've got a buddy with me and I think we were going to like Sauced on the Paseo or something. So I'm just fucking hauling ass down Western being an idiot, you know?
Well, hold on, pause real quick. Was that back in the day before they put the fence up and you could just go to Sam Ears and like...
Oh, yeah.
Get your...
This was back in the good old days, man. Like when there was just the roaming cats out there that you would feed pepperonis to and stuff.
The cat can have a little salami as a treat.
Yeah. So we're going there and I get close to... I'm going south on Western and I'm coming up to 30th Street and I'm like 2 blocks away and I hear a piece of metal bouncing around in the street, like ricocheting in the street. And me and my buddy look at each other as I'm driving and he's the passenger and we're like, what the fuck was that? You know? And we just never saw anything. So we're like, whatever, you know? And then I go to get on the brakes to turn left on 30th to go to Sauced, and my right front wheel locks up. Car just drives right into the curb. And I'm just like, what happened? You know? One of the caliper bolts, front caliper bolts, came out. And so as soon as I got on the brakes and the brake had friction, it bound up in between the wheel and just locked it up and sent me right into the curb. And I was just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. You know? Like, so I think we find the bolt. We limp the car home. Luckily, this was like less than 2 miles from the house or something.
Really surprising you actually found the bolt, though.
Yeah, like, we found it. So and we knew it had to be there, and I had no other way to get the car home because you couldn't use the brakes. Or it would just do it again because I tried. And so we get the car fixed, limp this thing home, and I'm like, man, if that fell out, what else is wrong with this car? Because this other guy built the entire car. He had his hands on everything, and I haven't touched anything. All I've done is put fuel in this car at this point. And so the car goes on jack stands in my driveway, and holy shit, he cross-threaded every fucking single thing on that car.
Hey, man.
I mean, I had to go back and fix everything he did. I had that car in jack stands for 2 months, fixing stuff, getting thread chasers, ordering bolts, and of course, like a few mods while I've got the car down, you know, and
is this where you found out about the cross member bolt issue?
Oh yeah. Just all kind. I mean, all the seat bolts were fucking stripped out. I mean, it was everything. It was just, it never ended, you know. And I'm like, so I went from thinking I had this awesome car and we were gonna do all these local events. So I'm like, okay, so I bought a pile of shit, and I can't even drive it on the street because it's falling apart. Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think back then like bolt checking was a thing. No. Yeah,
you waited till it broke.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Well, but even still, like a brake caliper bolt. I mean, you know, you got your lock washer on there and everything. Like
they should never come loose.
Yeah.
Like the only and it not that it came loose, that it fell out, that it backed out. That so it was never tightened.
So hold on, was this like the bolt from like the caliper to the bracket or the bracket to the knuckle? Caliper to the bracket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So one of them came out, and that's why when it clamped, it rotated and wedged in the wheel because that one bolt was still in it.
It just went.
It would clamp it and then just pull it. Yeah.
It pushed
so it worked like a
up
drum
into the
brake.
wheel.
Yeah.
And it didn't break like the wheel or anything.
No, it didn't do shit. I got lucky. Like the car somewhat gently slammed into the curb. You know, I was only going 10 miles an hour at that point or something.
That just sounds like it's probably like a bent lower control arm at that point.
It didn't do shit.
Really?
The car was fine.
Okay.
I may have tweaked tie rod a little bit, but I didn't fix it. You know, fuck it.
Yeah.
So I'm still friends with Andy while I'm working on this car, and we don't have anywhere to drive. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, there's a Mineral Wells event this date. Let's go do it. And I'm just like, fuck yeah, let's go do it. I'm ready to drive this thing. After this car has been on jack stands in my driveway like all summer, like 2 months. And this is one of those deals where it's like the event is on Saturday. I think I got the car off the jack stands on Thursday evening.
Yeah.
Haven't drove the car at all. So and at this point, I'm pretty unfamiliar with all this. So I don't know how well of a job I've done. And I've had to just fix so many issues. I just don't trust the car. I go put 5 miles on the car, come back, load it full of fucking tools. And Jessica rides with me. We go to Mineral Wells in that car the next day.
Oh,
I have no backup plan.
Driving the car to the real fucking you're Eric Peter in this shit right now.
Dude, this was back in the day when we did this, and I want to say, so this was my first time to really even drive this car. Yeah. And there was like a crew of people. I think Ben and Nicole went. Andy and Robin. I think Philip was there.
Yeah.
And maybe
was that the event that Philip's car broke and he had to drive Andy's car on the street back to, or maybe Ben's car?
Man, there was a few events where we did this shit, and I think Andy was the only one that ever had a trailer.
Yeah.
And there was always someone's car broke that ended up having to go back on that trailer.
Drive a race car.
And it was never Andy's car, the one that was towed there.
Honestly, like Andy's SR, that's probably like the most reliable SR.
That thing was super reliable.
In the
I don't think he ever had
States.
real issues.
Yeah, no.
So we go do that, and I haven't drove this car. I've never even tried to drift a car that had more than 100 wheel horsepower, And we go to Mineral Wells, and I just did terrible. Like, basically, it comes down to the car was like set up really wrong, and I was just trying to like chuck it in at 70 to 90 miles an hour, and like I just kept thinking, well, I'll just keep going, and I'll figure it out, and really, I just did terrible the whole time. But it was a huge learning experience. The car didn't break, so that was a big one. I had that feather in my cap at that point. The car was solid. And we drove all damn day. There was like no one there. There was maybe 8 to 10 drivers at Mineral Wells.
Yeah.
It was just Aaron. He had no staff running it, And I was like, okay, I did terrible, but that was epic. I had a fucking blast,
It's so funny to think about too, like what Aaron had been doing up to that point. It's like this dude's like driven FD and everything like that, and he starts running events, and there's just like, where's everybody at?
Well, this was when I think it ran events like 2 or 3 times a month.
Yeah.
So there was no demand for like,
Yeah.
If he would have done them once every 2 months, there would have been 40 drivers there. But
Yeah, and like that's something. So in little tangent here, that's something that I've kind of been thinking about with all the different events that we're about to have here in Oklahoma.
It'll spread a few series thin, but everything kind of works out. People are going to have their places they want to go, and
True.
We can kind of do that this year and reassess and see. Everybody can kind of figure out where they need to be and how many events they need to hold.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But we did. I want to say nowadays. I drove my car home from that event, I think. But there was another one where we basically did the same thing. We drove our cars down there. Maybe at this point I had a truck and a trailer for this second event. There was a dude going the wrong way when we got into Mineral Wells, and we were getting there at it was probably like 2 a.m. or something. We left on like a Friday night to get a hotel and get down there. And Philip almost got, there was a car going the wrong way, and we were going like 60 or 70 miles an hour each way. And he almost just got wiped out by this car that was going the wrong way on the road. It was pretty wild. That was one he'll never forget. And we had another big event down there. Everybody had a freaking blast. We go to leave. We go eat at this Mexican food place, and then my car won't start. After like driving it down there, driving it all day.
Yep.
My car just no start, and it's like it's not getting fuel.
I was gonna say, need some gas in it.
and Andy's got the trailer, thank God. And so that was when Jessica went down with me for that one too, and it was about the same group. So I end up driving Andy's race car back from Mineral Wells that night. This is the story
that I was thinking of.
I think it's happened multiple times, but this is the one that I know of because I had to suffer and endure this. Because this is the first, like, gutted race car. May have had a roll cage in it at this point. I can't quite remember. And Jessica rides with me because she's a trooper. And we're coming back, and he has some horrific exhaust leak. And the car is just filling up with carbon monoxide. And it is so fucking hot inside. Like it was pretty cool outside, and we had the windows all the way down. It got to the point where my eyes were swelling shut and I couldn't see from the car. Like Jessica is like passing out the whole time. Like it's a really bad situation. We should have stopped, but we just tried to power through and make it back to OKC. And I'm like at 70 miles an hour, I'm hanging my head out the window so that I can fucking breathe, even though I can't see because my eyes are swelled shut and they're just watering when I get out there. It was just one of those really stupid things you do when you're young. Just get the hotel room, But I don't think Andy's car was street legal either, so we had to have it in the middle of the convoy.
Yep.
Pretty sure somebody didn't have working lights. It was just a whole shit show. So we drove 4.5 hours back to OKC. We ended up running over a skunk. It was either a skunk or a possum that was already dead in the road in Andy's car.
Oh, Lord. And
Andy's car is the lowest one of the bunch.
Yep.
And so this swollen, old, dead animal explodes all over the bottom of Andy's car when we're in it on the highway. Because, like, somebody was in, I think Andy was in front of me with his truck towing my car. I think I was in the middle, and maybe Philip was behind me. And so these, like, rotten guts of this thing get smeared all over the exhaust under Andy's car. So we got to smell that for, like, 30 miles till that shit burned off. It was just a whole shitty experience. But at the time, man, we were just suffering. But it's like a funny story now,
Some cook skunk for you, huh?
Yeah,
right.
it was bad. So then I think that kind of caps it for me at Mineral Wells. At that point, Gary is hosting events. Yeah. So now we have No Grip events back at Stroud.
No Grip and Friction Motorsports.
Yeah. And so that whole scene starts at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was when you let me drive your car.
Yeah.
One time. That was like
quite
man,
a few people cut a few
laps. I will never forget like actually like the first time driving an actual like setup car. And I think that just kind of like really helped my focus onto like what I need to do. Like, I mean, that's why I went ahead like with the S14 immediately, just bought all the arms.
Yeah.
Like,
you just got to have it all.
Yeah.
It's the standard.
And I mean, there have been some people that have told me like, oh, you don't need all that. You don't need all that. And I'm like, dude, like I was in a stock KA with like lowering springs and a welded diff. And then I just jump in this car that's got like, like 320 horsepower at the time?
No, it probably just had a T28. So you were like 250.
Well, I mean, still, but like, stock KA that to the wheel probably had like 130.
Yeah.
So like 110, 120 horsepower more. And I'm just over here like, holy shit, first try out. I'm linking it. Like,
just fucking works.
Yeah. So like that's, and now I'm realizing, hey, I need an alignment too. And fucking shocks that don't go like.
I definitely think this leads us into a great question to ask. Then what do you believe is important to setting up a drift car?
Suspension.
Well,
I mean, like, just like in general, I mean, like, obviously, like, he's went from KA to SR to LS now.
All the different variations.
We haven't gotten to the LS factor of it yet, but just like, what would you say is important? Like, do you think power? Do you think tire?
It is everything. You can't leave one thing out.
Yeah.
Like, you have to start. This is a big tangent. So do you want to address this now?
Yeah. Is it a cake that, you gotta buy all the ingredients?
Okay, well, you got to start with like when you're starting out, or even if you're better. Let's just say you're going to get a new car. The first thing is it has to be reliable. Number one, because you can't improve and you can't cut laps on a car that's intermittently inconsistent. You have to have a consistent base to start from. Mm-hmm. So the damn thing just has to work, and it has to be consistent. And I don't mean like, if your handbrake kind of works sometimes and then other times it doesn't, well, that's inconsistent. You just have to have all that mechanical stuff working properly, or you're never going to get a solid base. You're just going to have super inconsistent laps. And the only way you can build is consistency. So
facts.
Just mechanically, you have to have it sorted out, no matter what it is, no matter how basic or how complex it is. You don't need to make things overly complicated. You just need them to consistently work. So you have to start there. Obviously, you have to have some sort of a diff, to get the car sideways, whether it be an LSD or welded. You got to have that. Additional steering angle is always super helpful learning, because like there's nothing worse than just spinning out all the time and not having enough to catch yourself. But a huge one.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but do you think? And I know that you're running this kit, but do you think the Wise 5 kit's made it way too easy for people to drive?
It's okay. So this is double-edged, because does it make driving a lot easier? Yes, but it has so much adjustability that, I like the simple things because you can't fuck it up so bad.
I feel like for a new person, Wise Fab could really, like, somebody that doesn't like maybe have like the group that we have to kind of ask questions to and things like that. I feel like somebody that just goes out and puts Wise Fab on their car, it could really confuse them, and they could end up setting the car up the wrong way and then end up just getting discouraged.
Well, and it'll just kind of also teach you bad habits if you just jump to that. I mean, I get it, like cost wise. If that's, I mean, I got Wise Fab on my car because Ben found a dude that was letting it go dirt cheap. Mm-hmm. So that's the only reason I have WiseFab on my car. Otherwise, I don't know. There's no telling what I would have on it.
Probably, probably Part Shop Max.
Maybe, because that's kind of what I had before. But we wanted to try a trail knuckle, and that's why I ended up with what I did, but mainly just because it was cheap. So obviously some steering angle, but you don't have to jump to something that extreme. That's top level stuff. You don't need that at your local skid pad.
Yeah.
I don't care what you think. You don't need it. I don't need it. I could drive fine with something else.
So you saying like local skid pad, that's kind of interesting because it almost seems like all across the U.S., like more and more events are actual tracks.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, go-kart tracks have like taken over, which is
Yeah.
awesome because that is some of the best driving you can do.
So how do you feel? I mean, like obviously a skid pad's good for beginners, but like how do you feel about like beginner people going to like actual track, like go-kart tracks and stuff like that? Like,
So that's another double-edged thing because you need to have.
do you think it makes drifting inaccessible to some people, or maybe a little bit? What's the word?
I mean, at a point,
like daunting to new people.
at a point, yes,
Yeah.
because you can't go have fun at a go-kart track where everybody's run off the track and the holes are a foot deep on the side. Like it's just, your screw-ups can really get you.
Yeah.
And it's when you go off and you bend a tie rod and you're working on the car and it just. The barriers to entry there are pretty steep, and that's not the best way to learn,
I almost took out my oil pan at Mac Park.
Yeah.
For that first event, getting the
Yeah,
car
I mean,
back
they'll
out.
get you, but the reward is very high. When you get that figured out, there's just no better feeling.
Oh yeah.
It's like the Dark Souls of drifting.
But another big one that like people don't really recognize initially is like, obviously you have to have your suspension sorted out. Like you're going to have coilovers, like, your shock and strut or whatever old shit you have, or your blown out coilovers. That's no good. You just need something consistent. You don't need the best stuff. All the $1,000-ish coilovers will all work just fine, but a good
I was about to
seat
say
is so important. I almost think the seat is important as steering angle is because they kind of go hand in hand.
I would say a seat's probably more important than coilovers.
You're giving me the Chris Forsberg answer here.
No, but he's right.
I mean,
right,
like,
though.
yeah,
honestly, he's
Well,
right.
like my seat is like so good that I don't even need to put my harnesses on.
Yeah.
And I have a probably 15-year-old NRG seat that's a copy of like some Japanese seats.
Oh, I have the same because like that seat that you have, it's the same that's in my car. Like NRG hasn't really changed the design for.
Do you have one of the newer ones?
Yeah.
Okay, well, my old one is different. Mine is a copy of like the good seats.
Oh, okay.
The newer ones have like a square back, and my seat is like 20 times more comfortable and fitted.
See, I can't remember the couple times that I have sat in your car.
I'm not trying to bash the new NRG seats because I know a bunch of people
man,
have them, but like the seats that are way more fitted to you they're substantially more expensive and they're substantially better.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But how much did you pay for that NRG seat back in the day, though? Probably like
I paid $100 from Shane
$100,
Jenkins for a carbon fiber seat.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
shout out to
that was some
Shane.
California car.
I mean, it's still floppy though. That one dude at what was it? Was it Fuel Fest or LS Fest? That he was like,
That was my seat bracket. That ended up
okay.
being my seat bracket. It had bent.
Did you
it
fix
had bent,
it?
and one of my seat bolts was backing out.
Oh shit.
Fixed now.
Okay.
So
yeah.
that dude that texted me and caught that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Because my car's a lot better now.
Well, dude, I mean, that thing was flexing like at least 3 inches
And it's
on
okay.
each side.
We were only
so-
doing 90 miles an hour then. So.
Yeah, it's no big deal. It's just Texas Motor Speedway. Oh man. That's good.
So then, as you were continuing to get into drifting, I do want to mention one year in specific, obviously the 2015 year, because that was the year that you had won the Pro-Am championship.
Look at you. I had to look it up to try and remember what year.
Dude,
And you
I
already
made
had
I
the
made
facts.
the I made the end of the year video. Come on now. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. I shed a tear every time I
Jeremy's-
watched that video. It was a good
Jeremy's
good year.
on it with the fucking questions like the dude from Hot Ones, man. Like,
Yo.
Jeremy's digging deep.
So if anything with me, 2015 is like my claim to fame year.
So I want to dive a little bit into that year because it was a good year for drifting. Here in Oklahoma, we still only had Stroud. We hadn't really expanded out further, but we had things like, what was that? Stick to Drifting or something like that from Texas. It was like
Yes, yeah.
the Spencer Marshavalov, and I apologize if I'm butchering his name, which he has a shop out in
and
Texas
Kyle
now.
Gilly, right?
And Kyle Gilly from Monster.
I think it's Spencer Marvashtapur or something like that.
Yeah, he had that KAT S14,
the dude
right?
with the big ass beard.
Yes, yeah, that's Spencer.
I think he's now dash built. On
Yes,
all of his,
he is dash built.
By the way, hey, follow him. He's like, he builds some crazy shit.
Yeah.
He's a super fucking
He's
good
like
fabricator.
making cages and all sorts of things for vehicles that are like newer as well. So
Yeah.
hoping that once I actually have an A90, I'll actually be able to take it to him and get a cage.
He's getting more into like the actual track racing type stuff.
Which he had always been, but but during that time frame, I'm trying to think because there was in that year in specific, there was a lot of good driving and a lot of like new drivers too. Like the year before that, 2 years before that, we had Ferris that came to the scene. Maybe a year or so before that.
Yeah, I think it was about 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
And then
there.
2013, we had 2014, we had Comatric, so Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
and then Ben Gibson got the white car too.
Yeah, around that. Well, it was around that time.
Yeah,
it was around that time. So like, during that time, what were you thinking? Because I think Oklahoma drifting had just started transitioning into like this tandem drifting and such.
Yeah, we had just kind of started to have comps.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but we forgot one person, Jack Davis.
Yeah,
Jack Davis came
in. Was he in that early?
Yeah. In the Miata.
Back in the Miata?
That black Miata.
Yeah.
I will never forget whenever I was watching him drive that Miata, because I always remembered Miata drivers like before him just always really struggling with like the snappiness of how those cars were. And then the first time I saw Jack, I was like, holy shit, this dude is good. Because I think I maybe saw him spin out like once or twice.
Yeah, I do remember him
like
cutting some good laps in the Miata.
Yeah.
Way back.
And how young he was too, you know, because I think he was like 15 back then or something like that. I don't know how old he is now. So
yeah,
sorry for that tangent.
but take us through that 2015 year. So like what do you think was the magic in that year?
So I'm trying to remember my car setup because I think I had caged my car, which means I think 2014, Andy had talked to me into. Andy was running Lone Star, and he was talking about how awesome it was, and he had like talked me into it again. So I'm like, all right, well, I got to cage the car, and then I saw him just wreck his car every event there. So I was like, well, I'm just going to preventatively tube front my car so I don't have to do it after everything's torn up.
Yeah, that was when you like pulled basically all the front end aside from the fenders off the car.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I forget if it was 2013 or 2014 that I did that and caged the car, did all that fab work.
That was when I drove your car.
Yes,
because it was already caged and everything like that. Yeah,
and so I just kind of made a big push that I was like, I'm gonna do some competitive drifting. You know, I just had that itch, and I was like, let's do it. You know, and so I went to a round one of Lone Star. Maybe it was 2014, and I got like. I worked on my car for 6 months to get ready for this date because I fabbed my own cage, which was a total nightmare. God, it just took so long doing it part-time after work, and then did the tube front and did all this stuff just to struggle and get my car there and like buy bulk tires. And like I was going to do Lone Star and I was going to try to do well, and I came out really strong. And we went to GGP for round one. I did like 6 or 7 laps. Car had a catastrophic motor issue. I was done. Didn't even like connect or like get the course down. You know, didn't even get enough laps to do that. And the whole Texas scene, those guys just drive so balls out.
Yeah.
And we were so much slower in Stroud. They're just super competitive. And it was, I didn't even get up to speed. And then I had a big motor issue and my weekend was done. And I was just devastated. I was so upset. And I was just like, why am I, I questioned everything, So that season, took the motor apart to see what was wrong with it. I'd never been inside a motor before. Figured out I broke a throttle body, motor had ate a screw, tore some shit up.
SR problem.
Good old SR
So we
problems.
replaced a piston and maybe a valve or two and patched that thing up, put it back together. And then I decided, well, I'm not doing that shit again because I just wasted so much time and effort to get there for nothing. So I was like, well, I'll do our local events at Stroud. And I think I wanted to be competitive, but I wasn't like, I think I was the least powerful car. You know, everybody had a setup that was approximately what I had, but I just had an SR that was making like 250 horsepower and just wanted to go out there and throw down, see where I would end up.
Well, when we get back, we're going to go ahead and dive a little bit more into that season, as well as we want to talk a little bit more about this LS car that you currently have as one of the Drift Riot members as well. We'll be back. All right, guys. So, quick bonus section here. Dyson actually has had a quite a good experience with various motorcycles, and so I'm not quite as experienced. However, Matt,
hello,
is a little bit more experienced here in this matter. So why don't you guys take it away?
So you've got a XS650 frame, right?
Yeah, I've got ended up with what I would call two project bikes that are like
So
70s
like a
XS650s. Yeah, they're just in
a
pieces.
frame and a motor.
I have like two frames, three motors, just two sets of wheels, a bunch of random shit.
That's the thing with like the old like cafe and bobber style stuff like that. It's just like, yeah, it's a project bike, but like it's a frame and then a bin full of parts.
Yeah, and what I'm gonna find out is
you can
like
fit the engine in a bin.
the guy that we got these from probably had a bike that he rode.
Yeah.
And then it broke, so he probably bought a project bike to rob parts off of.
Oh yeah.
So I probably just have two broken bikes.
Yeah, I mean, should build one good bike out of that.
Well, we'll see if we can.
Man, I love that era. Like my favorite era is like cafe style bikes, and I think that's why whenever I got my first bike, it was an SV650 because it was, I mean, obviously that's not a cafe bike, but it was still like, you know, the naked round headlight V twin, really just like thumping, you know, really thumping engine, you know. So
Yeah, my first street bike, I had always kind of wanted them all my life, but first one, it was like somebody already did it up cafe style, and it was a 70s CB 360, I believe.
oh yeah,
And looked really cool. I bought it. It also came with a parts bike.
yeah.
Title, ready to go. And it was $1,000 for both of them.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, how could I not get this bike? It's cool as hell. And then I got it, and it was the slowest
They're
fucking
slow
thing.
As hell.
I was like, what? It ran good. So I was like,
They're
what's wrong
slow
with
as
it?
hell, but
I
they
just
look
thought the motor
like-
was worn out. Yeah, but it looked cool as hell.
Oh yeah.
Did a
Especially
little bar
with like
hopping
the
on that one.
with the side pipe, the scrambler style side pipe. Yeah.
Oh, this one probably had the stock pipes that wrapped under, and that was it.
Yeah.
So it was so loud.
You know, another like classic Honda bike that I really love, and it's actually like the first bike that I ever actually did any street time on. Ben had one, the CX500.
Yeah, I never
Do
rode
you remember
a CX.
that?
Yeah, I remember.
Do you remember that one
though.
that he had?
Yep.
Yeah, dude, that thing was so cool, and it's wild the way they were engineered too, because they're drive shaft bikes.
Yeah.
So like, whenever it's in gear, the transmission actually spun backwards. But when you're sitting there at a light, like, and just kind of with the clutch in or whatever and revved it, you could feel it like
torque.
trying to tip.
Yeah. I always heard
Yeah.
that about him, but I never had any experience.
Oh no,
with
it actually does it. Like,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh shit, okay, yeah. Like you have to like kind of lean the opposite way when you're like
kinda
just like the slightest bit when you're taking off.
Yeah.
Like it feels weird, but it's cool, you know. And that's like the way that bike that Ben had looked. It was really cool. Yeah, you see, like the cylinders are like off to the side, kind of like the old like
cool
Moto,
looking.
like the old Moto Guzzi's and shit like that.
Yeah. He put some miles on that thing too.
Yeah, he did.
And then, I don't know how much longer it was.
And then he got a Harley.
Got that Harley.
Yeah.
Which that was like the first Harley I ever rode.
Yeah, same. It
It was kind of disappointing, wasn't it? Just say it. It was pretty disappointing. Like, I think I had already had my Buell at that point.
Oh yeah.
So my Buell was a lot lighter.
It was probably disappointing for you for a different reason than it was for me. The power was not an issue for me. I can't do forward pegs. I feel like I
you just weren't used to it. It takes time.
You can't feel anything. Like,
well, you're cruising. That's it.
No, but like I'm like, no, I gotta feel everything.
Yeah. Well, it's just totally different than a normal like sport bike.
Yeah, I did. So I rode that bike a bunch, like, and he rode my SV a bunch too. And I get it. And I've ridden like mid control bikes as well. Yeah. I think mid control is probably the perfect. I mean, obviously it's called mid control, so it's like the perfect combination of like comfort, but also, you still feel a little bit. I don't know.
The forward controls are weird till you get used to it.
They really are. Yeah.
It's odd. So I'll give you that.
I could see how it could be comfortable on the highway, especially if you're doing like a long tour, like just having like
just to not be cooped up.
If you're riding for long periods of time at the same speed, RPM, whatever, like it is relaxing. It's definitely relaxing. But also like I think like that's not good on a bike, being relaxed, It's like
if you're just gonna put miles on it, it serves its purpose,
Yeah.
It's like, you don't want to do rad stuff on a Goldwing, but a Goldwing's great for what it does.
That's true. I don't know if I could ever ride a Goldwing.
You say that, but if you put 3,000 miles on one, you'd probably fucking love it.
I don't know if I could hold it up.
That is I don't know if I could either.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
what do they weigh? 800 pounds or something?
No, I think they're up to 1,000. Like the new ones, I think they're up to 1,000.
I mean, any bike that has a reverse gear on it.
What do we got? 787 to 853.
Yeah, they are tanks,
fuck
dude.
That. No, fuck that. There's no way.
As soon as they're heavy enough that they need a reverse gear, I don't really want any part of it.
Dude, they got cruise control on that shit.
Why not? I mean, those things, that's like the equivalent of like a Tesla.
Yeah.
My
dad used to call it it was a lazy boy on wheels.
Yeah.
Like even back in the day.
That's a good representation.
Yeah. The Goldwing was like a lazy boy on wheels. So if you could have you been like looking at bikes at all?
No.
Thinking about it?
Well, bike-wise, since about a year ago, I got back into dirt bikes and got a RMZ 250, and a couple of my buddies, some other guys in the drift scene, we've been riding really at Draper a lot.
Yeah.
Few rides.
About like Austin and Gunner.
Austin, Gunner, yeah. And Remington, he just got back in. He got another bike.
Okay,
too.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Remington.
And then Taylor Gray.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He's
got a whole compound up there.
Yeah, he's got a nice setup at his place. So there's quite a few people that have kind of gotten back in, and Austin, I think, was the first one when he got his 125 a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But man, that has just been super fun. And it's just such a good workout. And like an extremely fun way to do it. Like I can't stand. I have no desire to go to the gym and work out. And like motocross does that for me. It's a great outlet, and you get to go do it with your friends and have fun. And it's every time we go to Draper, it's like you'll run through a trail and there will be a herd of deer, and so you can stop and look, or you can chase them. And I do both. There was one time I was popping up out of a ravine and I ran over an armadillo.
Oh shit!
That scared the shit
a
out of
live
me.
one?
Yeah, it was alive.
Fuck.
Oh yeah, it just happened to be in the trail, and I popped up and like, you're just coming out of all this tight stuff where you don't have any sort of vision, and then there's like a little straightaway, and I kind of knew that section was there. So was
that on the green trail or a different one?
This was on the blue somewhere.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I just popped onto this like little plateau, and I knew I was going to be able to like run it through the next couple of gears and get up to speed. And there was like out of the corner, it all happened so fast. So out of the corner of my eye, there's like a log. No big deal. Like I'm just going to plow through it. I just keep shifting up. And then like the log's kind of moving. And then I feel it deflect off my front wheel, and then something hits me in the foot. And I'm like, I got my boots on, but like, so something hits me in the leg, And then about that time, I see its tail. And it's like next to me. It's like I ran it over and it tried to jump and like hit me in the boots. I don't really know what happened, but
I mean, did you stop to make sure he was okay?
Well, it took off because it scared the
yeah.
shit out of me because I just thought it was a log. And I was like, you know, about the time I hit it and the log moved and then I saw it had a tail.
Yeah.
So that was a really funny occurrence out there.
That's wild. Yeah. See, like the only experience I have on dirt is like doing the green trail on my little Coleman.
Yeah.
That was, man, I don't know.
The
man.
Coleman's, it's like no good out there because you have no suspension and you just get kicked around. Like on a bike, it's really fun.
Mine had front suspension. It
yeah,
was
but that doesn't count.
BT, so yeah.
Like on it, like our bikes have a foot of suspension.
Yeah, that's
and good brakes.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing.
It's like not about speed. You need those two things before you can go
so
fast.
slow through that. Like Gunner and all them were just like way ahead of me, and I'm like, you guys are fucking balls. And Gunner's on that fucking hard frame one.
Yeah.
Like
on the
no
CT.
suspension. Yeah, no suspension, nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you have a death wish or
well, what's
something.
funny, like
even on the green trail, like there's a lot of obstacles.
Oh yeah, there's
like
it's all packed full of stuff.
Well, like where the water washes out, like some of those hills, and you have like little canyons.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And shit, and you got this wide ass tire. Like I couldn't imagine doing the green trail on
Man,
like a small bike.
He impressed me so much because there was before he got his WR. Man, he would ride with us on his Coleman, where we all have dirt bikes, made for this stuff, and he's
just
getting through stuff.
Yeah.
Man, he wanted it so bad. He was just putting in the work, and I'm so happy that he's gotten like a real bike now.
Yeah,
because like his pace is already pretty good.
Yeah,
and his suspension is blown out on that thing. We have got to get it hooked up. But, like, he has been a lot of fun to ride with lately just because he's been waiting to be able to level up, and now he has that, and he's been doing really good out there. I'm very impressed.
He's also got the G, too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really excited for him to get that thing.
I don't know when things are going to happen with that. I think that one's on the back burner for right now.
Yeah, probably because it's wintertime. And he's
been
already
busy on the motocross bike.
Well, and he's already,
why.
like, outside all day anyway. He can't really, put the car in the garage.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I mean, he got that subframe, right?
I believe so.
The non-Hikis, yeah. Dude, that's the weirdest thing about those cars.
Yeah, and I'm super unfamiliar with anything on those. I've just never had to work on those chassis cars.
So basically, like he just happened to buy one of the few G35 manual coupes that had a Hikis rear.
Really?
But they didn't make enough of them for people to like want to make a Hikis delete because everyone would just swap either a 350Z.
Oh, so he had to get a subframe to get rid of that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he had to get a subframe with all the arms and everything like that.
I didn't even know those cars were Hikis.
I didn't either until we looked under it and it's like that's a fucking power steering pump.
Wow.
Under there. Or like that's like a steering rack under there. And see and one of my buddies from Lawton, one of the like Lawton drift guys from back in the day owned it. Before that, and
that's right.
And he drifted with that rack on it. I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, and I told him about it, and he was like, yeah, I always thought it kind of felt really funky in the rear. It's like, well, shit, now this is why.
He was right.
Yeah, active steer rear module.
There you go, Gunner. It's selling for $229.
No, but like this is wild though because the fucking the spring, that's the spring bucket that also moves. Does that move with the?
But those shouldn't go to the tow arm.
No, on those that's what the spring bucket is. It's the tow arm.
Is the tow arm?
Yeah, that's why everyone.
Weird.
That's why everyone does true coil over on it.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm just super unfamiliar with those cars, but yeah, that's weird.
I mean, they're not too dissimilar from S chassis, but at the same time, it's like it's a divorced shock on bucket setup as well. Dude,
I would be shocked if I put a car on a lift and saw that.
You're right.
That's so weird. What is it with Nissan and Hikis?
Well, no, so that's an S chassis. Yeah, that's an S chassis, or an R chassis. We're looking at a picture of a Hikis car subframe. Yeah, that's either an S chassis or an R chassis. That's not a Z. Or well, no, because 300ZX never had. Yeah, no, because you see your tow arm. Just look at the lower control arm.
Yeah, it looks like an S chassis.
Yeah, that's either an S chassis or a GTR or something like, or a Skyline. Yeah. So, anyway.
Anything else?
Yeah, that was a nice little side project.
Motorcycles, they're cool. Get one. Get two.
Seriously, get two. Be safe on them though. Like, be safe.
Wear your helmet.
Yes. Wear your fucking
I would be
helmet.
dead. Wear your helmet.
Yeah. Grass clippings. And we are back with the Car Ramble podcast. We had to take a quick break for some bomb-ass chicken.
Life-changing chicken.
It was pretty good.
Life-changing
Did not
chicken.
disappoint.
Yeah. Yeah, we had ourselves a little dinner break. But Zach, we were talking about the 2015 season, was it?
Stick to Drifting.
Stick to Drifting.
Yes.
Yes.
I think you had mentioned Lone Star, but we were kind of trying to get into...
I had my heart broken in Lone Star because my car grenaded itself, right in practice. So it took some time to get motor back together, get things sorted out, and I decided I'm going to do the 2015 season in Stroud, which we're going to have 3 events. Not a huge stacked field, but I think the drivers kind of tapered off through the season, but I just kind of, like, we all get the urge to want to compete and see kind of where you stack up, So I went wanting to do that and wanting to do well, but I also had, like, the lowest powered car, realistic expectations of just like, hey, have a good time, but see where you stack up. And basically just driving with a bunch of friends. I think we had a few people, maybe from out of state, but mostly a bunch of Oklahoma guys. And ended up being a really good season for me. I learned a lot. I think I won all 3 events, and I believe I qualified first at all 3 events as well. So, a little perfect season. So that's a good feather in my cap for my one season of trying to compete.
Competitive drifting, yeah.
What were you, and what was in the car again for all the people at home?
So this was S13 hatch that I've had for, years at this point. I think I had Part Shop Max, knuckles in the front, and then this was an SR car, a stock SR. I think I had a T28, like the S15 turbo, and the car probably made like in between 250 to 280 horsepower at the wheels, maybe. I don't think that turbo is capable of any more than that. So that's about right. I was well under 300 horsepower at the wheels. Like, I had the smallest motor that made the lowest amount of power.
I mean, back then, for like those of us in Oklahoma, like, that was a lot of power.
Well, everyone else had more.
Well, yeah.
So not necessarily, but it worked out really good. I think I won $1,000 for like the end of the series, like, which was pretty cool, especially back then because people weren't really paying out back then. Oh, yeah. And I ran on like such a tight budget that it paid for like my whole season of driving. That $1,000, because my car, like, I don't even think I went through a pair of tires per event. My car made so little power.
Well, so what kind of tire were you running on back then?
I think we were all on Federals back then.
Yeah.
That was the go-to tire.
595.
Yep. So, and I think we all, almost the whole field was like collectively like running the same tire by default because they just worked.
See, it's I feel like it's stuff like that makes, the pro drivers like Chris Forsberg and Chelsea call for like a tire rule, or like if you look at like Gambler, they have the 235 class. Well,
that's just like a great way to make things competitive with a small tire because there's only so much you can do with it.
Well, and I mean, you don't have to run a super like strung out car or anything like that. I mean, obviously you have your suspension setups and everything like that, but like motor wise, you can just, stock 350Z with like all the basic suspension stuff and a 235 and you're good.
Yeah. Well, and you can just beat that to death. Just get more laps than anybody else. There's that group of Texas guys that are doing that right now.
Oh, yeah,
and they're like
the
some
street,
of the
street
best
legal,
drivers.
the street legal
Yeah,
series.
because
Yeah.
they just drive all the time. And as far as I know, there's no big failures on the car, and so their driving skill is so high.
So then would you say around then 2014, 2015, 2016, would you say around that time that was that would probably be the most time where you started getting heavily interested and invested to the point where maybe there was maybe a driver or two that you looked up to, a track or something, you started setting a goal to like, I want to go and drive with XYZ, or I want to go and drive at XYZ?
So I think for me, that sort of had started with the previous year wanting to compete in Lone Star. And I was like, I had that same dream that everyone gets. They're like, I want to make it to Formula D, you know? And it's like, everyone gets that dream because you just get a couple of good events under your belt and you're hooked. And you just, how far can I go, you know? And, but because I got sidelined initially at that Lone Star event, and I realized how detrimental a little setback could be, you know, that it was like, I probably didn't drive the car for 5 or 6 months to get everything fixed after that because I just overextended myself so much. And
Well, it's back before like everyone like had teams and everything like that.
yeah, I mean, everybody was doing everything by themselves, and I like really never had any support. I mean, really no financial support and minimal help working on the car. I've just always been my own team, which most people are their own setup. But so I've just had to do everything myself, and that's that much less that you can do. You can only provide so much.
True.
But so I had the FD dream like everyone. Got my hopes and dreams crushed at Lone Star. Then just thought, well, I'll do the local thing and see what happens. So won that stick to drifting thing. But then at that point, I didn't have any real plans ahead. I think, and in hindsight, it ended up being a really good thing because I learned to just have a good time in the car. Because everybody wants to compete, but then you get crushed by someone or something happens and you question why you're even doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
And why you're doing it is to have a good time.
I definitely think that at some point in time, like you said, you always want to kind of see where you're at. And I think it's kind of a good thing to not necessarily have, I won't say like it's not good. It's not a good thing to compare, but it is a good thing to have a measuring point.
Yeah. I mean, and I still catch all of my buddies. We all still kind of strive for that. Everyone. It's just a natural human urge, I think, to see where you stand.
Oh, yeah. But from that season, though, afterwards, you went LS, right?
So this was before my cool SR setup, because then I bought that cool Future Fab manifold, went top mount.
That was when the car
you
sounded
either
like a
know or
rotary.
you don't know about the 5-bolt Garrett flanges, and they are the worst thing in the world. They're just no. You haven't ever messed with one. You haven't had a car with one.
No.
Well,
You have that top mount set up.
I had the RB.
Did they have the 5-bolt too?
It was a 6-bolt, but it still sucked.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a 5 or a 6-bolt.
It was terrible. It sucked ass.
That stupid flange alone is the reason I spent a fortune to go top mount and V-band on my SR. So I put a really wicked turbo setup on it, which probably made more than my current V8 makes. Yeah.
It was like probably like 360, 380.
It was probably mid 300s, yeah. And so drove that for a while. That was cool. And it still had a ROM tune on it, an RL Synthleby like chip tune. So it always kind of ran a little bit off. And I was just doing fun events with that. I don't think I did anything serious. I was just having a good time in the car, you know, just hanging out with my buddies, and our scene was growing quite a bit at that point. And so I was just having a good time. And then I got tired of some of the tuning issues and tuning struggles. So I was like, I need to get a standalone. We need to get this thing tuned properly. And so we went to go do that. I bought a used Haltech because, of course, I'm doing it on a budget. And we just had issues on the dyno. And basically, you need to get the trigger wheel set up. I didn't do that, and I think it was not reading properly. Basically, my car just like wouldn't rev over 5,000 RPM. When Brandon was trying to get it tuned, it just wouldn't read properly. But that thing made 300 horsepower at 5,000
like
RPM.
5,000, yeah.
So like it would have been really good, and I still regret like not having that because it sounded so good. It was so cool. I put a CD trans on it. Like, dude, that car was rowdy.
It probably would have been like one of the like coolest SRs ever.
Yeah, that thing was so cool. But I had just struggled. Like I built my own wiring harness for the engine, and again, I just invested everything, which was a budget, but it was all my time that I had. And I went to the dyno, and I just said, we either blow it up or it's good. It's one or the other. I'm like, no in between. And so we went, and we had tuning issues. And Brandon just tried and tried all day, which now I think it was a stupid little optical wheel that would have helped the ECU read better, because the Nissan wheels are notoriously bad. They're just overly complicated.
And that just would have been like a cast replacement, basically, right?
Yeah, it's like a $20 or $30 wheel,
like
and we probably would have been fine.
wheel.
And I may still have an SR in my car if this shit wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But long story short, we couldn't get it figured out, and I was just, Brandon was pulling his hair out trying to get it ironed out. He had exhausted all of his options. There was nothing he could do. It wasn't his fault. And we loaded the car up on the trailer, and I brought it home. And I knew I was taking that fucking motor out.
You said, fuck it.
Yeah,
like,
I was just done. I was done. I was
Yeah.
furious on the way home. And I was just like, I have had enough. And I think maybe previously I had already been talking to Adam Chambers to give me some info, because he had just done the 5.3 swap from him being RB guy for a long time. And I was just like, give me the short story. Should I do it or not? And he just finally said,
yes,
it's worth it just to not have to deal with anything. The cars just work. You get to drive it. You get to have fun. It's not as cool, but it works, and you don't have to worry about it. And I was like, that's all I need to hear. So there was a million more conversations back and forth, but I had sourced a 5.3 from Pull Apart. Happened to go get, I think it was out of an 04 Tahoe or Suburban. Okay. Bronson, thanks again for helping me pull this thing, because you were the only person I could get in short notice. It happened to be one of their sale weekends, and I bought a 5.3 for $60.
Hell yeah.
$60, yes. So that was the start of my V8 journey.
You just finding all the bargains, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, dude, seriously, like, you would think I have a fortune in my car. I'm cheap, dude. I got everything on a deal.
I need to go shopping with you.
Hit me up.
So, okay, I gotta ask though, like, isn't LS really not that cool? Do you not think LSs are cool?
I mean, what's cool is driving the car and cutting laps in it, and not having to work on it.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just like the one person in the group that actually likes V8s.
I mean, I like it. I think my car sounds awesome.
Oh yeah,
like it sounds like a NASCAR inside the car. I mean, the experience is great. Was driving the turbo car more fun? Absolutely.
Yeah. I think for me with LS is like it comes from like growing up. My dad had a '68 Chevelle with a fucking 454 in it.
Yeah.
You know, in the garage, in the back shop, and always working on it, hearing it start up and just kind of like idle and everything like that. I'm like, that's fucking cool.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I think a really big divide in the drift scene between the turbo and non-turbo motors is
turbo stuff sounds cool too.
Well, I think the big divide is that you have the guys that learned with V8s that never had to struggle. Yeah. And then you have the turbo guys that had to work their ass off to make stuff happen to keep up with the V8 guys. And I was that guy. I was the guy that always had pretty small amount of power and was a momentum driver, and I could still drive about as fast as everybody else that made more power than me. So when I got a V8, it just allows you to be super lazy, but I can still drive a turbo car.
I was going to say, you're kind of still a momentum driver.
Yeah.
Like TMS, dude, at LS Fest, bro.
Well, and I'm still the low power guy.
Yeah, no,
out
yeah.
of the group.
Compared to everybody at LS Fest,
everybody makes 100 wheel horsepower more than me.
Yeah,
at least out of all my friends.
So then take us through driving at like a place like TMS then with a 5.3.
So
what does your car make right now? What do you?
So on Brandon's dyno,
Yeah.
it made like 340 wheel horsepower,
Yeah.
I think, in 330 torque, and he pulled a couple degrees out of it, so it makes closer to like 330. Just because that was like just way safe in case I get a bad batch of fuel or something like that. Like the car's just been good, and this. So I do have. This is not the first motor though. This is my second 5.3. So we did have the first one, that Iron 5.3. I got a year out of that. I was hot lapping it at Hallett. Learned how important oil control and baffling is on LS motors, and Rod knocked one out there after a year.
We also had that leak at the beginning of the day.
I had a few issues kind of, so that wasn't really an unforeseen thing. It's like shit happens, you know.
Plus Hallett's just like so many elevation changes.
I basically learned like you don't take a V8 car and get the oil super, super thin and hot in it, because that's what happened.
Yeah. You were hot lapping the
I may have had other issues, but that's ultimately what happened to cause me to spin a bearing in that car. So, but that car, like, still, I mean, I rod knocked it and I drove it back to the pits. Like, I could have had him tow me, and I was like, fuck it. You know, I was on the far end of the track, so I just drove it back to the pits. Yeah. So I scored a aluminum 5.3. That's what's in the car, and that's what's been in for like 2 years now. This was my second full season on it, and it's just been rock solid. Really, really good. Wish the oil pressure was a little higher, but it's proven to be super reliable, so I'm just going to leave it alone.
What's the lowest yours gets to?
It just, if I hot lap it and the thing just gets hot, the hotter it gets, the thinner the oil gets, the less pressure I have.
Right, yeah.
So I've kind of learned to like 4 laps max, let the thing cool off.
Like what does it get to though? Because like I
like
when we were at Remington, like I have my number in my head, but I want to know what yours gets to.
I don't let my car get over like 230 water temp.
Okay. So you're probably seeing
It has been over that a couple of times on accident, or I had a fan fail. But
yeah, I
generally,
got mine to 234.
Yeah, I mean that's no big. Like,
Remington.
dude, they'll take. I've had mine up to like 250 before, and they're fine.
So
you just don't want to regularly do that.
What was your oil pressure though?
Well, it just depends.
Like the lowest.
I'm also running 2050 in my car to get more oil pressure.
You're
You're running a heavier oil than I am.
Well, my motor had been rebuilt, and I mean the bearing clearances have to be big. Like the rings were gapped really big. It was a nitrous motor. I don't know.
Hashtag Brandon oil request there.
Yeah.
Rotella 15W40.
I have to run 2050 in my car so that it has appropriate oil pressure. But generally, like, mine doesn't get above 60 and doesn't get below 20.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better about
mine.
I think the lowest mine was like 19, but it was like 19 and 20. But again, are you
running 530?
No, no.
You had Rotella in the car?
Yeah, okay. But it's a stock motor.
Yeah.
Like I didn't. So whenever I pulled the oil pan off to put the front sump on and everything like that, it has ARP stuff in it. I don't know what the clearances are.
Yeah, so who knows?
Whatever.
It's working.
Yeah.
Earlier,
works really good.
You've mentioned, of course, being underpowered. You've also mentioned the motor that's in it now, or previously was a nitrous motor. Hot topic moment. Got any plans to add some horsepower? Maybe a bottle, maybe a whiner, or some of that spinny spings wish whoosh.
Okay.
Did you call it a whiner?
Yeah, I called it a whiner.
I've never heard that term before, but I know what you're
whipple.
I know what you're spitting at me here.
Like a whipple.
So yeah, there were a few power options, and really like this last event at OMC, my car did really good. It has like just enough power. It's like in the sweet spot where it doesn't just blow the tires off, and I'm like riding that level of grip. It's really good at OMC. The only tracks where I really need more power are the third gear tracks, like Hallett, TMS. I don't know if there's any other third gear tracks I'm doing on the regular.
Do you happen to hit third gear at Cams? I know
no.
Cams is not a regularly visited
track
per se, but
that's mainly because my transmission sucks and I can't get it's a struggle to shift from third back down into second.
T56
but
problems.
At Remington. Later half of the day, I was entering in third gear there, and my transmission was doing really good there. Mainly because that first turn, that sweeper was so long. I just had plenty of time to ease it in.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying earlier. You just literally, like, you're kind of hanging out there. You're like,
yeah, but I've tried to drive at third in OMC, and I can't do it. My car won't let me shift fast enough. So that's what you get when you buy a budget T56, with unknown history.
yeah.
Well,
But if I was going to add power to it and to try to do it in air quotes here cheaply, I would love to have a nitrous bottle in that thing. Like for Hallett, 100 shot. Hell yeah.
I don't know.
And like it's got just enough to do TMS as it is now. As long as the run-up's long. When we did LS Fest, they choked me up on the run-up, and I could like barely get up to speed.
That was really short.
I was also the slowest, least powerful car at LS Fest.
Well,
so
and didn't you qualified higher than Brandon, didn't you? Yeah.
I think I probably got more seat time than Brandon, though.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he came in, he flew in. Yeah,
Well, and he
Arrive
had
and
lost
drive.
second gear. He
Oh,
was
that's
shifting
right.
from
Yeah,
first to third.
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was wild. Dude, and I would have loved to see that battle between Ferris and
Grant.
Grant. Yeah. Man, that was. Dude, I remember when we were all like crammed inside his car trying to get that clutch issue figured out.
yeah.
Dude, that was.
Man, so what other tracks have you drove at, and what other tracks are you looking forward to driving at?
So I've been as far as Houston to do, Speed Sports. We went down there a couple, before that, Blizzard.
That was when you broke that, was it a toe?
That was when we had that big wreck.
Yeah.
And that was totally my fault, man. I came in just slightly too slow into the first corner.
Yeah, and then everyone just stacked up on top.
And Brandon
of you.
charged in pretty hard. He hit me. Then Hershey hit him.
And then Ben hit
And then
him.
Ben hit him. And Ferris had already broke his diff.
Oh, yeah.
So he was riding with someone. Man, that one was a shit show. But we packed up and we got out of there. All those cars got smashed up. Like I got out of that one super lucky. And I broke a rear tow rod. But those guys all had to put like body panels on those cars. They got smashed.
Well, didn't Brandon's didn't one of his strut towers get fucked up?
I have no idea. I know everybody suffered like on that one, but
I knew Brandon had to get a coilover, but I think he had to take the car to Nick and have him straighten it out.
that was Grid Life when he hit Casey.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that car got real fucked up.
Yeah.
But Nick did a really good job straightening that thing up.
Yeah.
So did that one. Haven't drove many of the other South Texas tracks. All the local Oklahoma stuff, which, like, my God, all you guys, we have it so good. Having Mac, Cams, OMC.
And now skid pad.
One of the few that got to drive, what was that other kart track?
Oh, JRP?
JRP. Yeah, I got to do JRP that day. Yeah. That was really cool. And then I, of course, drove like the Mineral Well skid pad years back. Remington now. Man, we just have it so good in Oklahoma, being so close to so many tracks.
Speculation here. You guys think they're going to bring back Lawton?
I don't know. That was cool, but at the same time, like,
I think it's probably not.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, Remington's going to be better than Lawton because you got more room, and it's closer for most everyone.
The thing that I thought was really cool about the Lawton thing was kind of being able to do like kind of like whenever they didn't set up any cones in the middle, and you could kind of just like freestyle. I thought that was really cool, but I know a lot of people probably don't agree with me or do agree with me on that. I mean,
I forget. I may have been in first gear in Lawton.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really small warehouse. It was cool. It was cool to be one of the few events in the country to be indoors.
Yeah.
I mean, and it probably, there have probably been some indoor events in other states, that were probably a little bit more extravagant than that, but it was still cool.
Did
for
we
a
do
little
it
bit.
before Drift Masters?
I don't think we did actually.
Probably not.
Because they've been doing this. No, Drift
That
Masters has been doing the stadium thing for a while.
Yeah.
And that's cool as fuck.
Using what they got.
Yeah, that's cool as shit.
Well, I would like to ask you, outside of drifting, obviously I know that you've done the test and tune drag racing night where there was like other drift cars out there and
Man,
so forth.
I want to get people to go back and do that more because I can't believe no one else did it with me.
I mean, I would love to do it again.
It was pretty fun. Trying to remember what my car ran. I couldn't launch it for shit, and it was just trying to like break loose. I think my car ran like a 12.7.
Yeah, I think you said you were trapping like a good 100, 120 or something like that.
Yeah, around that.
Yeah. That's
I remember that too. I was like, holy shit, this car's fast as fuck down the corridor. Yeah, and you weren't even launching that
I couldn't
thing.
try. Like
Yeah.
I tried one time and the car just spun.
Yeah.
So I mean, what can you do with 35 series sidewall rear tires? You know, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, just easing into it, like that was impressive. But you probably surprised a couple of the old heads out there too.
Yeah, I just needed that 100 shot for that.
Right? Yeah.
get them in the top end then.
Yeah.
Well, is there any other kind of like form of motorsports that you would like to try out? Autocrossing, road racing.
I
know you've
did
been out to
I
Grid
did a
Life.
little bit of autocrossing back when I kind of first got this car, but drifting was, and for me, always just the cooler thing that I like, you know. And it just, I don't know. I was always like in the skater kid crowd, and that's what the whole drift crowd is. So that always just came really natural. All the friends that I've made in that crowd have been really good. Even like there's a ton of people I haven't talked to in a year or two at this point that aren't really coming to events, and I think the crowd is one of the bigger reasons that I've stayed involved. I'm not really seeking anything else out, and monetarily don't know that I can afford. Like, this is good enough. I'm just not looking for anything else. Like, this coupled with me and the buddies that I have that are usually involved in this, where we're going to like ride dirt bikes and stuff now, like, I'm good. I don't need another hobby. I don't have time.
So then what would you say drifting looks like for you in the next 5, the next 10, the next 15 years? What does that look like to you?
So no idea on the timeline, but all I want is to keep doing what I am currently doing. I don't strive for anything else. I just want to have fun with my friends. That's about whether we're staying local or whether we go to a few out-of-state events or whatever. It is just all about having a good time. It's a vacation for me, essentially. So I just want to keep it at that. I don't care to compete. The invite to do LS Fest was cool, and I never thought I would do anything on that level. But it's like we were there, and I was like, why am I doing this? I spent 7/8 of my time sitting in grid, waiting to be told to go do something, you know? And it's like, it was still cool, and to do something on that stage was exciting. But it was also not as exciting as just hanging out with my boys at the track, you know?
Yeah, and just a couple thousands of people watching, you know, from home and
Right. Yeah.
in the stadium.
I think the coolest part of that weekend, because for those of y'all that don't know, me and Jeremy both were there in the pits with them that weekend. Being in the NASCAR pits was really fucking
It
cool.
was. The whole
In the
whole
NASCAR
setup was
garages, yeah.
amazing, but like the track time side of it and just all the hurry up and wait that is
Yeah.
involved
Well,
in competition.
The weather didn't really play into that.
That is true.
At
We
all.
got screwed.
I feel like, honestly, that would have been a really good weekend, like an amazing weekend for everybody if the weather had cooperated.
Yeah. I only had like one goal for that one, and I was
Yeah.
like, everyone else has a faster car than me, so I have to try to qualify as high as I can.
I don't know, dude. I think we were all stoked because, like, you were just like, I just want to qualify, and then you qualified, like, it was top 10, wasn't it?
I was 13th.
Oh, 13th. Okay, yeah. Out of what was it, 18?
Close to 20 drivers,
20
somewhere
drivers?
around
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give or take, which I was pretty happy with, especially considering my struggles beforehand.
Yeah.
That was a whole can
Man,
of worms.
honestly, the fact that the whole team qualified was pretty.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That felt like
That's solid.
even like for me as just like a pit worker for you guys, like that felt really good.
Yeah,
I was like
agree.
that was cool as fuck.
It was weird
that
playing
was
race
cool
car
shit.
driver for a day and wearing race suits and stuff like that. Paulie, hooked us up and gave us all that cool safety gear, and that was a really cool experience. And I would do it again, but I don't think I actively seek those things out by any means.
Got you.
So if you had the money to like run a program and everything, like would you?
Well, and it doesn't have to be drifting. You could do like NASCAR. You could do a drag setup. You could do Baja racing.
It would be drifting. That's just where my passion is and what I enjoy and all. I mean, it's really like it's half that's what my passion, and it's half that this is where my friends are.
So here's another question then. You see all these like the 10Ks and the 50Ks popping up around the country and everything like that. Would you rather do like kind of maybe build a program for that versus like Formula Drift?
No.
I
don't like, I would compete at very select events.
Yeah.
I just like if you go to that, like an event where somebody's giving away a $10,000 first prize, like, dude, every driver is out for blood.
And not only that, you got to think about it. You're then going up against like the Nate Hamiltons.
Yeah,
well, yeah, and that's where like
Denofa's probably going to be going out to some of these.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yeah. I just don't have the setup to even compete.
So Chelsea,
and I'm not going to spend the money to do it, and I just want to have fun.
Chelsea was actually talking like on that new podcast that he has with he was one of the judges at LS Fest.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Pat Gooden. God damn it. Sorry, Pat. And he was talking about how like he's just gonna like run the Fox at like some of these like shootout events and stuff like that. That car is not fast.
It's like a 400 horsepower car, so it's nothing crazy.
Yeah. So
but
I mean,
that's enough to his skill.
Yeah.
Will overcome a whole lot of
yeah. Well, and Alec Honordale got out of drifting, so there's another one you don't got to worry
and that's
about,
like
really.
There's like a big trend, there's always going to be whoever can afford to go to FD to go do that, or that has sponsorship to do that, and it's cool that there's a bigger push for all these grassroots comps. I really enjoy all that, but we need to make sure that we still have like just for fun drift days.
Yeah, a good.
Everyone needs their place.
Yeah. I think we need more motorsports festivals like Grid Life.
Yeah.
Like Alpine.
Yeah.
I really like it sucks Alpine's gone.
This man has been petitioning for them to bring Alpine.
Dude, it's like it's such a cool like it's literally and there's probably a reason why they called it Alpine Horizon. Like it's literally Forza Horizon IRL.
Okay, well I've got the second best thing for you.
What's that?
You're going to have to make the most out of the OMC events that we have.
Well, that's fair.
There you go. Don't
fine.
bitch about it. Be about it.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying.
I'm just saying, like, you use our local opportunity to the best that we can.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, and I think it'd be cool to have like a little local music festival at OMC. I know a lot of local bands. That's
what I'm saying.
I could put a roster together, like putting that on record right now, Rodney. I know a lot of local bands. I'm in that scene.
Well, I would like to go ahead and take a moment here to go ahead and give everybody a quick moment. Earlier, I had my own hot take about the whole entire adding some horsepower and stuff. Do you have a hot take for us that you'd like to share?
Narrow that down for me a little bit more. Like which method or to do it or what?
Just a hot take.
Just a hot take. You got a hot take on anything?
Oh, just anything in general.
Yeah.
Oh, you hit me with that.
I mean,
I wasn't expecting
shouts out to the group, but that mustard on watermelon be smacking.
Oh yeah, that was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
I hate how much I liked that.
People still trip out at me when I say I had mustard on watermelon, but don't knock it till you try it.
I'm going to have to disagree with you here just because it sounds too weird. Sounds too weird, but you were dead on with the chicken, so I may be out of line.
Just, hey, don't knock it till you try it.
It's pretty good.
But do you have a hot take for us?
Okay, my hot take is going to be drifting related here, and it is take your time and set up your cars, people. You drifters are so damn lazy, and you try to just drive. You're like, oh, my car drives like shit. I'll just drive it harder. We all do this, but you should make your car drive how you want it to drive. Like, if you... Who was I talking with this at the last OMC event? I forget. But that I came to OMC, a track I've been to 20 or 30 times or something over these years. And I came in with my air pressure a little bit higher than I know that what it needs to be. Like, I may start driving in the morning. The track was even cold, so it's going to be less grippy. And I probably started with 35 pounds of rear pressure in a V8 car, which you would say, that's way too much. And guess what? It was. You're right. But I'll go cut one lap, and I'd be like, yeah, the car was way too slick. I need to air down. I mean, also, I need to, like, warm the tires up to get them grippy. And that helps to warm them up fast. So I'll go cut one lap. I'll come back in, and I'll drop like 10 pounds of tire pressure and then go feel the car out and maybe take 2 laps this time because it's getting closer to where I know it needs to be. And I'm like, well, I need a little more grip, but I wanted a little bit different. Like I was looking for a little more side grip and maybe a little less front grip. So I drop another like 5 pounds out of the tires or something, but I add a couple of clicks of shock rebound in the back. So then I go out and I've got the back pretty hooked up where I want it. It's pushing the front a little bit. So then I've got to add a little grip to the front and drop a little bit of pressure. And no shit, I don't know. I didn't see anyone else out there of my friend group touch their shocks. Even touch their shocks. People will usually mess with their rear tire pressure, you know? But like I made multiple tire pressure adjustments in the back tire, and I played with the rear shock damping, and I played with front tire pressure, and I ended up playing with front shock damping to get my car where I thought it was really good. And that was about the time that I gave Austin a ride, and he was just like, man, you were killing it. This car was just like riding the edge of the track on rails. And it's like, yeah, I had to work for that all throughout the day. Play with your suspension, make your stuff drive how you want it to drive.
Don't just set it and forget it.
Yep. You have to do it every time at every track unless it just miraculously feels good.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get lucky.
Not all of us can drive Corvettes.
Put the work in.
It do be like that. It do be like that. Well, Matt, my good friend, sir, do you have a hot take for us as well?
Man, Dyson just said it, honestly. Like, there's so many people that I see are just like, oh yeah, this is my setup, and it's what I drive at every track. And I'm like, okay, that seems a little bit weird, but, and like for me personally, like maybe it's from, you know, watching a lot of like F1 and stuff where they're like changing setups during practice and everything like that. It's like having a race car mindset to grassroots drifting. I know a lot of people think it's kind of weird, but
people just don't want to take the time to do it. But man, you will get such a reward, and you will learn so much
also,
about
actually,
your car.
Here you go.
No, you know what? That's not my hot take, actually. My hot take is this dude out of like Latvia that has the steering reducer.
Oh, the 360
in his.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So this is my hot take. I think that's a cool ass mod. And if you and I feel like if you train with it, you can be good with it in any situation.
It's a weird one.
I think that
it's getting a lot of traction on Instagram. I think if
we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah.
I think let it be legal. I think that on sim drifting, they actually suggest if you're starting out to start with the wheel at like 540.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then go into 720, 900, then and you'll have your full rotation.
Yeah.
Personally, I've played just 900. I tried 720 one time and it helped, but just like now that I do more of like Assetto racing, so like actual GT Cup car racing and stuff like that, like it's that 360 wheel feel, I feel like would just be way too twitchy for me to try and learn how to drift on.
I think the biggest problem would be like your initial turn in.
Yeah.
The wheels would turn so fast it would understeer. And so any of your initiations have to be like 300%.
I wonder what his Ackerman and Caster setup would look like on a setup like that.
There's probably a lot more to it than just that. Because all it is just a thing that you put in between the steering wheel and the steering rack. It's not anything crazy. You could do it on any car. But yeah, I think it probably, setting a car up like that probably goes a lot more in depth than just throwing that thing on and then,
I'm sure,
doing all that. I mean, and even down to like the type of tire you put on the front of the car, the air pressure, that like you have to totally redo your whole front suspension to work around that. But I mean, I don't know. And again, this is like part of me like being into like actual race car stuff. I think it could be a thing in the future.
We'll see.
I definitely think that as a whole, drifters should pay more attention to motorsports in general.
Oh,
because
100%.
whenever I went out to Orlando, and I'll keep this brief because I want to get to our last question for you, which is the last traditional question. But going out there, I had taken a walkie-talkie with me, which Formula Drift, if you guys are listening to this, don't listen to this. I brought
listening to everybody.
Right. I brought out a walkie-talkie, and we were able to listen in on like everybody in the pits. So like
the team radio and
people
stuff.
that were like, this is their first time at a drift event, we're going to Formula Drift, and they're like, oh, well, what are you listening to? It's like, oh, we're hearing the driver talk back to his spotter, telling him like, hey, you need to like not cook it so hot. He's like, oh, well, if he wasn't such a fucking idiot pressing on his brake at this time, and like it adds that personality level to the sport, but
It's
it also opens,
like watching F1.
Yeah,
live,
but it also opens up a lot of their eyes that like, hey, I might not ever be able to be the best driver, but maybe I could coach someone, or maybe I'm really good with numbers, I could be the budget person. Maybe I'm really good with the camera, so I could be the marketing person. Whatever that case may be, you know, I feel like that's something that I want to push forward going forward a lot more, is trying to get more younger people and even older people that want to get involved in stuff just to be more active in that kind of way. So, and to think about whatever motorsport they're doing, to think about it in that way, because it will help you out tenfold.
There's so much more to it than driving the car.
Yeah,
I spend more time working on the car than I spend driving the car.
Yeah.
Researching,
and if you
things,
don't, that's probably why your car is a pile of shit.
Right.
Researching things, the whole nine, you know. But in closing here,
that's one of those things that's like any motorsport though. Like you're always either setting up, like he said, researching, you know.
Well, I'm going to be like, how many people have even ever corner balanced their car? How many, you know, here's another hot take. Here's another one I was going to say. None of you guys even have your coilovers set up properly. Like probably 98% of you.
Ben probably does, but
he's the only person, and it's because of me.
Yeah.
It's because of me. So guys, you need to learn what setting your bump travel is, and you need to do that. And yes, that means you're going to need helper springs. You're welcome.
interesting.
That's real race car shit right there.
True that.
You know whose cars have their bump travel set? Me and Ben's.
Yeah. Because no one else can be bothered.
That's probably it. Yeah.
all the powers to drive through.
Well, no, but I mean, like, it doesn't matter like how much power you have. Like, it's still good to have that stuff
set. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in closing here, we always have our last question for our guests, and it's always traditionally the same question, and that is, what is your top 3 cars? Like,
unlimited amount of money. Money's no object. What 3 cars do you want?
What 3 cars do it for me?
yeah, like you wake up in the morning, you have like a glass garage that you can look into as you're walking by getting your coffee, you know, and all that stuff, and you're just like, oh, nut.
Okay. So
what 3 cars make you nut?
all right, I can do this. So easy first one, something that's always been iconic, and I've just always had a sweet spot for this car, is like a cool air-cooled 911 Porsche.
Yeah.
It's just so iconic. And I think that's still kind of like a driver's car. You don't want one that's like stupid fast. You want a fun car that just looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
You
just
know?
a stock, like, air-cooled turbo.
Yeah, I mean, or, you know,
Yeah.
tastefully modified.
Okay, yeah.
You know? And that's even one that, like, Jessica's not into cars, and that's her, like, car. It's just, I think that car just does it for so many people. They just did it so well.
Yeah.
They're just so cool.
The egg shape, the well shape, however you want to describe it, is a timeless part of automotive history.
Yeah.
You know?
The Blackbird.
Yeah. Blackbird, Yellowbird.
So that,
I'm talking
and
about
then
the Midnight Club car. from Wang,
yeah.
from the one that the Wang and
Yeah.
Midnight Blackbird's based off. Yeah.
So I've had a decent background in like old cars and hot rods and stuff. And so my second car would be a 49 through 54 Chevy two-door car. And there's actually a guy, I've loved him forever. I just have. And I'll just catch myself like cruising Marketplace, and the last time I found like a guy that had like two, in his yard, and I was like, God damn it, I don't have time to do this shit, And it was like they were totally worth what he was asking for him, and that's just been a bucket list car of mine for so long.
Full like lead sled, like
pretty much
resto mod type thing.
Yeah, and it's just like I like him.
Rockabilly.
Yeah, just real rockabilly lead sled style. Like that's all I would want. Nothing super nice, just cool. That's another one. It's like that Porsche. It just does it for me. They have just beautiful lines. I think most people these days don't have any idea what this body style of this car looks like, but they're just beautiful.
It's like Bronson's 54.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah,
very similar.
We saw one the other day.
Yeah,
in Midwest City. So yeah, they're all over the place out there. It's pretty cool, actually.
Noted.
Yeah.
Third car. It's like I'm tempted to go like something exotic and wild.
Whatever you want, man.
What's gonna make you nut that third time? Because the first time is easy. The
you
second time
know what
is
I
work.
want to be able to
The
say
third
that I
time
have.
is like, damn, girl, you did something.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Here's what I want to be able to say. I have a fucking DeLorean.
Okay.
Why? No idea why. They're just cool.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to say that splits into two parts, and I'm going to go with part one is DeLorean, part two is Cybertruck.
Oh,
Because they're like the same fucking thing. I like, okay, so me being a painter for so long, I like that they're stainless steel.
Have you seen the panel gaps on them?
No,
They would make you puke.
I don't give a shit. I just,
Who cares? You can't shoot
Yeah.
them. You can't see me. You can't shoot me.
yeah, why a Cybertruck? I don't know. For the same, it's like the same reason that Pit Vipers caught on. It's the same fucking thing.
He's gonna beat you in a drag race with a Porsche on the back on a
Yeah.
trailer.
Oh my god. No.
Shut the fuck up.
Don't buy it. It's,
So, and that was like, none of that was planned at all. That was like just shoot from the hip.
God damn
like
it.
my honorable mention, what was going to be my third car, was like one of those badass, like a Ferrari GT40, like the super iconic.
Okay, yeah.
But that's too easy. I want something more personal.
is it though?
Yeah. Everybody loves it.
I'm just gonna pretend you didn't say the Cybertruck and say it's DeLorean.
I mean, well, and the DeLorean is like super, even though I know that car's a pile of shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's iconic.
Well, you know they're remaking them.
I heard something about
Yeah.
that.
No, they're actually doing it. Like they're selling them. I
Oh, like
they're- I mean,
remanufacturing them?
yeah,
Nice.
it's the same body. They're just putting like different, like newer components in it
Yeah.
and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna pretend you didn't say Cybertruck. I just
Well, I did.
I mean, me personally, I have zero respect for electric vehicles because I know what it means.
Well, that's great to know going into that field, Matt.
Well, no, because and this might be getting a little bit too serious or whatever, but like because I know what electric vehicles mean for people like us that actually like gasoline cars. Like,
Well, they can't produce enough batteries to put all of this other stuff out of business anyways.
They're still gonna try
There's
to,
not enough
though.
kids in the cobalt mines to do that. So,
Jesus
And
Christ.
we got canceled right there.
Well, it was nice knowing y'all. Oh man, love it.
But I don't know. I guess
have Russ
actually
on my
for
shirt.
my three, I've actually been thinking to kind of reset.
Oh yeah.
So I'm still gonna have to say F40, just hard Bonner.
Oh, but Jeremy, that's too easy, according to Dyson.
Oh no, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. Why? Because I've
did I
always
say F40 or GT40?
He said
You said
GT40.
GT40.
Okay, well,
GT40
that's
is
the
Ford.
Ford.
That's
What
the
the
Ford.
fuck?
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
that just shows how unprepared I was for any of this. But I meant the F40, the
Oh.
Ferrari F40, because
Oh,
that thing is just like every kid our age had like a poster with one of those.
Can
on
I
it,
okay?
you
Can
know?
I give a hot take about the F40? I think the F50 looks better.
okay.
Yeah,
saying.
but the F40 is cooler because it's an F40.
Probably.
Facts.
Probably.
Go ahead.
Anyway, no, you were saying your cars.
Yeah.
You said Ferrari F40.
If you want a real hot take,
Yeah, go for it.
go ahead and sue me, everybody. 8.6s are shit.
No,
The new ones or the old ones?
Old ones.
I don't think
I
it's.
thought you were going to say all of them. I was going to be like,
All
yeah,
of them?
let's start the hate.
I don't think that's a hot take. I think everyone that like isn't still fawning over Initial D like actually realizes like these cars are not worth $15,000 fucking dollars. That's like a $2,000 car, guys. Come on.
All 8.6s. No,
I
I'm
wanna
kidding.
let you know-
I like the newer GR86 though. But
I wanted to talk about the cool cars I saw on the way over here because I stopped in the 7-Eleven parking lot up here.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we saw
I hadn't
them
been
too.
there in a while. Let me tell you.
All the slabs.
I came in behind a Ford Escape that had, I think, 24-inch wheels on it. Otherwise, all stock. Like, he had to come in so slow and probably still ripped an inner fender out, you know? And then I parked next to somebody that had just a normal car, and they were a hoarder, and it was packed full of shit. So that was the second car I saw in the parking lot. This lady barely had enough room to get into the driver's seat.
Oh god.
And then there's like this giant green like Chevy donk,
Hell
you know,
yeah.
on at least 30-inch wheels.
Jesus Christ.
And that dude, he was going out to have a good time tonight. I can tell you that much.
So for a little bit of context, before we started the podcast, Jeremy and I had to go to the store, and we passed by the same 7-Eleven that Zach is talking about, and we saw the crowd start to form, and I was like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of donks and slabs over there, and that's just hilarious that
Dude,
you drove past the same thing.
It was just entertaining, man.
Yeah.
I just stopped before I walked in and turned around to look at all the cars and the people, and it's just entertaining.
Yeah.
I love that everybody's doing their own thing. Like, and I used to like just. I've come to appreciate donks. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
Because I'm
for
like,
sure.
I support anybody who's doing whatever the hell they want to do that makes them happy.
Yeah.
Oh, and now it's like you better not catch a donk slipping on a bad day because they'll outrun your ass most of the time.
Yeah,
now.
dude.
Oh, yeah.
When I went to Thunder
Now.
Valley, there was a couple of fast ones out there, man.
There are some fast as fucking
Those guys were
donks.
faster than I was.
They make fucking rubber band slicks.
Yeah.
And they actually hook. It's wild.
God, I bet those are expensive.
I don't even want to imagine how much something like that is.
Anyways.
Jeremy, you said your list
Ferrari
changed?
F40. I'm actually going to put my 240XX on there, especially after the time I got to spend working on it over at your shop. And he can vouch for me on this, on how clean and straight that car is.
Yeah.
I went to go and look at it the other night and just like, it reminded me of whenever I was younger, how badly I wanted a clean 240. And now I'm like, next year, I'm literally a half step away from it now. So
That's good.
third car, though, still going to remain Toyota Supra.
Which one?
I like the MK4 preferably, but I would definitely get a newer A90 for sure. The newer Mark V. Like, hands down.
The other day I pulled out of my house on Kelly and I was headed north, and I see a car behind me with something on top of it, and it was a Mark IV that had a Christmas tree on top of it.
What the fuck?
That's what I said.
What color was it?
Red. Like a dark, solid red.
Andy, what you doing?
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know who that one was, though. But, Matt, you got new tree of them for us?
I don't know. I mean, I'm still going to put the S14 on there because, I mean, it's like what I always say. Like, when you put hands on, like, almost every inch of a car, like, and I know there's, like, I've had people talk shit on me for this, but I don't know. I love my car. You know? I love my car.
I've had my drift car for 13 years.
Yeah.
It did not make my list.
I mean, hey, that's, you know what? That's just how you feel about it, I guess.
He said he's raw.
It's a tool for a job.
Romance.
It is a bad romance. Sometimes I fucking hate that thing, but no. So yeah, the S14. Man, I don't know if my list has changed, honestly. I don't know. I mean, if I can change my list every episode, I will.
I mean, you have practically.
No, I know.
This is episode 7, and my man has changed up literally every single time.
It's basically just going to be a list of like all my favorite cars at this point. But same for you, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so the S14, a Ferrari FF.
Okay.
You know, like a fast hatchback.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then number 3 is a Tesla Cybertruck.
No. Get the fuck out of here. Hell no. No.
Can I shoot a bow and arrow at it?
Yeah.
I mean, why not get a
okay,
vehicle
Joe
you can
Rogan.
do that with?
Facts.
Yeah. And then number three. An AMG GTR.
Bet.
Actually, I actually saw one the other day on the highway, and I was like, "Oh, those cars look so good."
You know,
They're-
the Mercedes,
yeah.
like SLK body styles and like the kind of long
Yeah, but
nose
it's like
styles
it always
are
seemed to
starting
me.
to grow on me.
Yeah, it always seemed to me like the next evolution of the SLK
Yeah.
body style, and I think so. It wasn't a GTR that we saw on the highway. It was just a regular AMG GT, but it's still just like that silhouette is it's just cool.
James Bondy.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, kind of like the old Astons and stuff like that. As a honorable mention, I would love to have an Aston Martin. So I think they look great.
They do.
Jesus.
Yeah, I just died. I don't know where that
Are you okay? Are you good?
Yeah, I'll be good.
I have a last honorable mention, and that is my 09 Pontiac G5. Baby's been a trooper.
Oh,
You mean
my
your Chevy Cobalt?
goodness. Yeah.
I mean, basically.
Yeah.
You've had that for a while now.
I think because I gave my old Honda to Gunner.
Yeah.
That was my younger sister's car. That she used it up, and they thought it was done, and I paid $500 for it and drove it for like a couple of years, and then I just gave it to Gunner because I wanted it gone. And God damn, that car leaks so much oil. Like I went over to his house the other day, and there's just a huge oil spot in the driveway underneath that car, and I'm like, yeah, I don't miss that shit.
Hey, that's what my house looks like too, though.
Yeah, and then I picked up this Pontiac from work, and it has been a trooper, but it's starting to make a lot of bearing noise on startup.
Ooh.
When the reason I got this car for $300 because it had a cracked oil pan.
So it's kind of sounds like a diesel.
Yeah, may
Kinda sounds like a diesel in
Need
the
a motor
morning.
in about another year. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna milk it for all it's worth.
Man, those Ecotechs though, like on like up there with like the D series on how
Yeah, they're good.
reliable they are. Honestly, like
If it wasn't so much work, I would slap bearings in this motor.
yeah.
Can take a beating and keep on keeping
Keep
on.
on keeping on. Can take a beat and keep on keeping.
Wear that GM performance.
Yeah. Hey, and you got a LS and two your car, your vehicles actually. You got the truck.
Yeah, we got the car, we got the truck. And
Oh wait,
then-
did you end up getting that van?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about
Oh
I forgot about
so you
the
have
van.
3 LS vehicles
Yeah.
now.
So that one's a 1-ton, so it's got a 6-liter in it.
Oh hell yeah.
So I have 4 GM
vehicles.
drivetrain
Yeah.
vehicles. 3 GM vehicles.
Hey man, everything goes back to Chevrolet.
Yeah. When they
Oh.
produce that much, how do you get away from it? You know?
Yeah.
No, I mean for real though. But the 1-ton van has the better transmission.
Yeah, that one's a 4L80. So
I'm jealous.
Well, is there anything that you want to specifically shout out or anything like that, sir?
well, we didn't really touch on, but maybe the other guys can at another point, like my homies in Drift Riot. Obviously, all you guys. You know, just the local Oklahoma scene is pretty awesome. It's good, and we just need to keep it that way. You know, there's no need to just cause anything. Like we have it so good here. You know, there's no need to have issues over small things. So, you guys have it really good. We have a great scene. Keep it up.
Definitely look forward to 2024. I think that there's a lot of new opportunities and I hope that the influx of new drivers continues to happen.
It's going to be a good year for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. Well, in closing here, guys, as always, thanks for listening. Zach, we appreciate you coming over tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, we definitely want to have you back because, honestly, guys, we didn't even get into like some of the
there's so much more
good juicy bits of his story alone. So definitely expect to hear him back with us again in 2024. Probably try and get some video next time, of course. But in the meantime, of course, Happy New Year's. Follow your dreams. Follow your heart. Stay sideways.
Happy New Year's and be good to people.
Peace.
Later.